All right, my friends, it's now 3 o'clock chat here. We start with college football. Jim Harbaugh and Michigan have accepted the Big Ten's three-game suspension, meaning Coach Harbaugh will miss the next two games against Maryland and Ohio State, and the Big Ten will now end its probe. On the field, Washington travels to Oregon State Saturday, kickoff at 4:30. It's on ABC. Beavs are currently set as a 2.5-point favorite. Oregon travels to Tempe to meet the Sun Devils. The Ducks are a 22-point favorite. They have dropped their last two trips at Sun Devil Stadium in 2017 and 2019. Kickoff at 1 on Fox. Trailblazers got hammered last night by the Cavs. They've dropped five straight. The Lakers are in town tomorrow, 7 o'clock tip. I'll have game day starting at 4:30 here in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Thursday night football on Prime at 5:15. Bengals at Ravens. Huge game for the AFC playoff picture. Both teams coming off home losses. Baltimore looking for the season sweep. They're set as a 3.5-point favorite. Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad's coming up next. Rip City Mornings host Justin Myers at 4:20. All right, what's going on, my friends? Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. No Blazer game today, so you have us for the next 3 hours. Justin Myers, host of Rip City Morning, is going to join us at 4:20 so we can talk some college football with him. We'll get to the story of Carissa Thompson from Fox coming up at 5:20. Let me ask you, young aspiring broadcasters out there, would you ever fake a sideline report if you didn't get the information you needed from the coaches? So keep that in mind, and we'll get to that at 5:20, and a lot of different things we want to get to, including we'll have a little section of the show today on the Portland Trailblazers coming off the loss last night. I am convinced that a number of fans are not really sure of what the Blazers are trying to do, and it's really pretty simple, but we're going to lay it out for you in terms of a rebuild and how much time they're looking at to get through this. What are the immediate things we're looking for this year, and over the next year or two, what are some of the major goals, the things that we want to be looking for and the Blazers should be on the search for? We'll get to that as well. And we also have some goodies to give away like usual, Godfather. We have tickets that we want to hand out, and we're going to do that coming up at 5:20. So your chance to win is always with us right here on 620 Rip City Radio. No, September 28th at the RVN Style Resorts Amphitheater. Lainey Wilson's going to be in concert. So we got more tickets for that show to give away. At 5:20, we'll have another pair to give away tomorrow.
You know, yesterday when we gave those tickets away,
Phone explosion.
the phone just went crazy. I had no idea she was that popular.
All right, you can raise your hand if you've been through this experience. So I got my parents tickets for the concert. Lauren Daigle is going to be at Moda Center tonight. My dad loves her voice, and I knew he would enjoy the show. So without prompting, I got him tickets and got him set up. My mom is coming off shoulder surgery, so my dad's trying to be really delicate with her. So I got the tickets. I got the Ticketmaster app set up on my dad's phone. I got the tickets downloaded into his Google Wallet, so he's taken care of there.
Yeah.
Today he asked me about parking, and so I didn't have a parking pass that was given to me with the ticket. So I was like, okay, I got to take care of this for him. So I bought a parking pass in the Garden Garage because I think on level P3, that's where they have the ADA entrance, so it's easier for people who are handicapped. And my mom's got a handicap parking sticker, so I got him the pass, but it was on a different app. So I went over, I got his phone set up with that app, and I got him access to the parking, and I showed him exactly where he needs to go. And that's just the process of technology now when you're dealing with your parents, because I'm like, I got to set it up and make sure he knows how to get to the tickets, how to get through the whole process. So now I'm confident that they're going to be able to get to where they need to be tonight, and it'll be easy for my mom. That's just what we deal with now, Godfather.
Yeah, I know. And I kind of, and I'm very skilled at that. You know how many concerts I go to and games and everything. Tickets on my phone are no big problem. It's kind of funny, though, and Darren Ravel writes about this once in a while, and I'm not a big Darren fan, but I think he has a point. I kind of miss the paper tickets because they're a much better, it's a souvenir for where you went. You can save your ticket stub or your ticket. And, oh, yeah, that's a game I went to where, I go out of town to watch Major League Baseball. I'd love to have a nice ticket stub to put away somewhere to remember the game. They ought to have a booth inside where you can take your phone, hold it up to a machine, a scanner, and get a paper
I agree.
commemorative ticket done for that game.
Yes. Thank you to the crooks for creating counterfeit tickets that ruined it for everybody.
Yeah.
Last time I used hard tickets to get into a game was when me and my boy Steve bought tickets from someone off of Craigslist in Denver
Right.
for the Manning Rodgers Sunday night football game where both teams were undefeated. We got screwed out of $750.
Counterfeit tickets, huh?
So I was like, forget this guy. I did. I went up to enter the stadium with those tickets, got the red X, walked around to the other booth, and the lady, as soon as she held them, she goes, yeah, these are counterfeit. I made a decision at that point. I'm never using hard tickets again. I buy all of my tickets off of the Ticketmaster site now to make sure they're legit. And that's what I do. And we bought tickets.
They don't even have hard tickets anymore, do they?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
No, the counterfeit's too strong. It's too strong. But I do like having those memories. I've got a whole collage. I framed it. I put together an entire frame picture of all the events I've been to over the years. And so I've got all these hard tickets in there. It's fun to look at. But that was created 20 years ago. I've had 20 years of events with no ticket stubs.
Yeah. I did that with press passes once. I had this giant frame thing, collage with press pass. But I got so many after that I ended up just, heck with it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of junky to keep around.
Yeah, ticket stub was that was a big deal when I was younger. The actual ticket stub or holding a hard ticket. Like when my dad got me tickets to my first Bronco game, I remember holding the ticket and staring at it for hours. Like, I can't believe this is going to happen.
Well, it used to be when you went through the gate, they would tear the ticket.
Yeah.
So that it couldn't be used again. And then they got scanners for the tickets, so you actually got to keep the whole ticket.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Because very often the ticket is pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
They used to have nice looking tickets.
Those days are over.
Yeah, they are.
Thanks a lot, people. We really appreciate it. The crooks always got a leg up, and you got to stay ahead of them with technology.
Yeah.
All right, here's the big news out of college football, Godfather. In a bit of a surprise, the University of Michigan and Jim Harbaugh have agreed to the Big Ten's 3-game suspension of the Wolverines coach. This was announced today, which means Harbaugh will not coach Saturday at Maryland or in the regular season finale against the big rival, Ohio State. He will be back for the playoff if the Wolverines get in. What's your reaction to this news here where they decided, you know what, we'll accept the penalty and we'll move on?
Well, first of all, it's a big change in strategy. When you think back on Monday, Harbaugh's press conference, I will be speaking Friday at the hearing.
Yep.
He was absolutely going to have his say about this. He was going to get his side of the story out. Now, never mind. I'll take the penalty. We'll go sit down. That's it. It's over with the Big Ten Conference. It's not over with the NCAA. But, of course, that's going to take years, and no one will still be at Michigan when that thing's finally adjudicated.
Well, how much of this decision do you think had to do with the process of discovery?
Well, that's the rumor, Chad, is that there's other things going on at Michigan that might have been revealed in a court case where both sides get discovery. In other words, they get to look at your computers, your emails, all that stuff. And there's a big rumor about other misdeeds going on at Michigan. And apparently one assistant coach left, and there's rumors of another leaving, and that might have something to do with that.
Is this something that's unrelated to the scouting?
Well, it may not be. The latest I heard was it was a gambling thing. And apparently, before the one coach left, Michigan had an outstanding record against the spread. And then after he left, not so much. And it also coincides with the time that Connor Stallions was feeding information to the staff.
So is there an ongoing gambling investigation right now with Michigan?
That is the rumor that it's being looked into actually by the feds and not necessarily by the NCAA. Because apparently somebody in Vegas saw a real change in betting lines with their games, and that started it. I mean, anybody that's talking about throwing games now and shaving points, I think these Vegas guys have a pretty good way of tracking strange things going on with betting lines and bets. It sure looks that way, Chad, because, boy, a lot of people have been caught already.
So we're not even talking about Connor Stallings at this point. This is
May
a separate
might
potential
might be.
gambling investigation, but it's not official. No one has official details on
Not
that.
seeing anything from anybody. These are just rumors that are out there. Let me state that again. I'm just bringing out rumors that are out there right now. Um,
So they
and
don't want the Big Ten Conference digging around into their program.
exactly that. And I mean, because this is a big change. You were so upset. Everybody was really mad at Michigan or mad at Michigan. The people who work there, the people who coach there, they were so ticked off at their conference. They couldn't wait for this hearing. Now, all of a sudden, Jim won't be on the sidelines for this week against Maryland. He won't be on the sidelines for the Ohio State game. That's okay. We'll take our punishment, move on.
How much
That's
of
a
this,
big change.
How much of this could be their legal representation saying, "Hey, based on what we've uncovered, you probably don't have a good case here."
That very well could be. Now, sometimes they'll tell you that. Sometimes they don't want to tell you that because then they'd lose their fee for taking it to court. The other thing is somebody might have stepped in and said, "Can we afford the legal ramifications of taking this to court? Would it be better to take the punishment, call it good, and move on?" And I think somebody might have said that too. So there's all sorts of possibilities, Chad, on what could be going on. But I'm just saying it had to be something big, not something small, because they have changed their outlook and their stance on this just totally different.
I don't know how much it matters to a school like Michigan with as much money as they have, but this
Yeah.
is a cheaper option too, right? Because you have
Yeah.
less of the billable hours
Oh, yeah,
once you agree to the suspension.
absolutely. Somebody could have said, we can afford this, but there's other places we can spend our money that might make more sense than trying to win this in court. And we have no idea if we can win.
Well, I think the important thing to note here is that this ends the Big Ten probe, but it does not cease the investigation that's ongoing right now by the NCAA.
Correct. Which is so far down the road. Nobody's even worried about it. They're not concerned with it.
Interesting. This is obviously something that Harbaugh would have had to have been on board with and agreed to.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he's trying to do his school a favor right now. Hey, well, I'll take the suspension. We'll end the Big Ten probe
Save your money.
and
right?
save your money for the future fight that's probably coming from the NCAA.
Or somebody told him some information maybe he didn't know before and says, "Hey, folks, I don't know if we can go into court with this because I'm going to have to tell the truth. And now I know this information. We might lose this thing. Let's just back off. Back off the whole thing."
All right. What a mess. Michigan's got a lot of different things going on.
Gosh, it has been an ongoing story now for how long? Weeks now, right?
Yep. It's crazy. Michigan and Maryland, Fox, 9 a.m. on Saturday. Michigan's a 19-point favorite. And then they got the season finale and the showdown with Ohio State, which is going to be awesome. We'll come back, and I've got some more thoughts on Michigan and this situation they're faced now with the next two games without Jim Harbaugh. We'll get into the latest with Oregon State and Washington State in their battle against the 10 teams that are on their way out to the Big Ten and the Big
Yeah.
12. And then we'll get into the Trailblazers and kind of give you an expectation of what a rebuild looks like. The hard part is that most Blazer fans have not been exposed to a rebuild, a
Right.
full-on rebuild from the bottom up.
Yep.
But this is new, and it's going to take some adjusting to, but we'll give you ideas of what to look for, benchmarks over the next 1, 2, 3 years as they continue to put it back together. That's Dwight. I'm Chad. We got Justin Myers coming up at 4:20.
And we're playing good music in and out of the breaks.
Mike Oakes is playing good music.
Oh, Mike's playing this?
Yeah.
Nice going, Mike. This is good.
We like Bruce Hornsby.
Yes.
All right. Rip City Drive. All right, Godfather. I just did a little digging during the break, and I don't have all the details, but it looks like U.S. Integrity, which is the main body that keeps an eye on all of the gambling across the country, it looks like they uncovered some potentially shady activity on the computers within the walls of the University of Michigan with assistant coaches,
Hmm.
namely Matt Weiss.
Yeah. Who's gone now, right?
Yep. Yep. So this may be much more than just a sign stealing scandal. And maybe that's why Jim Harbaugh and Michigan agreed to the 3-game suspension to end the probe because they don't want stuff
Yeah.
coming out.
Yeah.
The one thing I do believe about this investigation, Godfather, I think this increases the likelihood without question that Jim Harbaugh, he's coaching the final few moments of his career at Michigan before he jumps back to the NFL.
I think that's a great point. And if something is going on, you always try to get out of town before the sheriff arrives, you know?
Well, especially if he's a part of something where it's not on him, like he wasn't involved in the potential gambling scandal aspect of it, it's going to get messy there.
Yeah. And again, the NCAA rule is head coach is responsible, institutional control, all that stuff that would make him culpable on the NCAA side of it, not necessarily on the legal side of it. Somebody might go to jail, but if he had no knowledge of it, it wouldn't be him. But he would be part of any penalty the NCAA dished out.
Interesting. So I think Harbaugh's gone after this year. I think he'll jump back to the NFL, and the teams to keep an eye on would be Chicago with the Bears, obviously the Raiders in Las Vegas, because we know Mark Davis has tried to hire Harbaugh before.
Yeah.
There's a connection there. And if he's willing to pay him the money, he would also give him full control. Wow. Wow. And this goes back to what I was saying the other day. Almost every successful college football coach that wins and wins a ton, there's always some sort of murky waters that surround them.
Yeah.
All the best of the best. There's always something dirty that comes out in regards to the program. It's funny how that works.
Well, this has the potential to be really big.
Yes. And this goes back to the discussions you and I have had in the past and my concerns about the legalization of gambling. And now where it becomes so prevalent.
Absolutely, Chad.
You're going to see more coaches, more athletes, and more people getting involved in gambling than ever before because it's so easy to get involved now. It's legal.
There's no question. It's just too easy.
Yeah.
It's too easy to just haul out your phone and place a couple bets.
Yes.
Or have your friends do it.
Yes. Or if you have access to information, you can share that information with someone elsewhere who can go and place a bet. Yeah, it's going to get messy, and it will get messier as time goes on because we're just now at the beginning stages of gambling and how prevalent it's becoming now across the country. And the advertisements are constant. You can't watch a sporting event without it now. It's wild.
It's the backbone of professional sports right now.
One thing I would like to say that I think is overblown just a bit. So Jim Harbaugh can't be on the sideline. He wasn't last week against Penn State. He can't be against Maryland or Ohio State, but he gets to be with the team at practice, right?
Yeah.
So Jim Harbaugh is heavily involved in the game plan and doing what he does, and he's really good at it. This whole idea, and I don't want to take a knock at a coach, but I just have this belief that if Jim Harbaugh is laying down the plan, when the team takes the field on Saturday against Maryland or last week against Penn State or even in a couple of weeks against Ohio State, is it really that difficult for an assistant coach to stand on the sideline and pretend to be the head coach when he's got all those great players and the plan that's already put into place by Jim Harbaugh?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think 95% of the work is done during the week.
Yeah. So you have to call a couple of timeouts. That can be dicey.
Yeah.
You may have to make a decision on what you want to do on fourth down, although Harbaugh may have already made that decision for you.
Right. There's a few substitutions you might have to make. If somebody gets hurt, who do I put in? And if something unexpected happens and they show you a play that you didn't plan on seeing, how do we deal with this?
Yeah.
But most of those are coordinator decisions anyway, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't care how emotional you get after the game. I don't care if you cry. I don't care if you drop a bunch of F-bombs on national TV.
Yeah.
My guess is the job is not as difficult as they were making it out in this win over Penn State on Saturday. Meaning, I really believe that if Harbaugh puts together an entire plan through a full week of practice,
Yeah.
he could put you up as a dummy coach on Saturday against Maryland, and the team would still win the game.
I could pull it off.
Yes,
Yeah.
I really believe that.
Yeah, I do too.
Because Harbaugh's pulling all the strings.
Yeah.
Harbaugh is taking all the decision-making out of it for the assistant coach. So by the time Saturday rolls, here's the plan. Do exactly what I tell you to do, and we're going to win big. Period. So I think it's a bit overstated about how difficult it is to step in as an assistant when the coach was involved in the entire game plan all week.
Right.
Now, if Harbaugh was not allowed to be around the program,
That would be different.
that's a different ballgame.
Yeah.
But Harbaugh is setting it up perfectly for you.
Yeah. Well, and plus, he could be sitting home with his iPhone, sending you text messages, which you don't even have to have your phone to see. You just take a look at your watch and, oh, yeah, I'm just looking to see what time it is while I'm reading a text from Jim Harbaugh saying, go for it on 4th and 2.
Do you think he's texting coaches on the sideline?
Well, what's to stop him from doing it? If he was stealing signs, I don't think this is a big deal to be texting with people.
All right. So we got more. We'll get back to the Michigan situation. In the short term, though, I don't think this is going to impact their operation because they still get to come out with this whole mindset of us against the world. We're America's team, and it will be a rallying cry for the players who are going to go out there and play their butts off for Jim Harbaugh, will they not?
Yes.
Do you envision any type of letdown or misstep along the way, maybe against Ohio State, or should they be able to handle business with no problem?
Well, I thought all along the Ohio State game is going to be a problem for them. I really believe that. I think it's always a tough game, almost always.
Yeah, except for the last 2 years when they've pounded their face into the turf.
Did. I know, but I really think it might be a problem this year anyway.
Well, here's what I think. I've watched enough Ohio State. They're very close to Penn State, meaning they can't move the football really well.
Yeah, I know.
And they don't have a quarterback they trust to move it down the field. And when you get into that type of game against Michigan, if you can't take the top off the defense, they're just going to line up and run the football and be physical, and you're doomed.
Well, I've seen Penn State now twice, and I would tell you if that's the third best team in their conference is not as good as the Pac-12. That's what I believe.
All right, here's the latest with Washington State and Oregon State that we talked about yesterday. No surprises, according to John Wilner, the Pac-12, the legal battle took an expected turn Thursday when the Washington Supreme Court temporarily paused the implementation of a ruling issued earlier this week that gave control of the conference to Washington State and Oregon State. The temporary stay of preliminary injunction was issued by the court's deputy commissioner and is largely procedural in effect. So if I read this correctly, is it very simply they issue the stay because the other 10 schools are hoping that the Supreme Court will hear the case?
Right. Hear it first and then overturn it later.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking for.
And it doesn't change anything about the situation for OSU and WSU. They're still in the lead. They're in the primary spot where you want to be in this type of situation because the Supreme Court very likely could decide that they don't want to take on the case and just respect the judge's ruling and they move forward.
You know, Chad, it's almost like a replay situation where the original call has priority. You have to see enough evidence to overturn it, you know. I think they tend to stay with the original call most of the time. And I think it would take something glaring to overturn it. And it looks like a fair decision. And I'm not that biased either way. But
yeah. Well, I think what could be going on here, too, is maybe the other 10 schools are just looking to help grease the wheels on getting a buyout or some type of an agreement put into place where
a settlement.
Yes.
I think that's a great point. It's a wedge, I think, to stall this thing, make them a little more anxious to bargain on some sort of settlement. And that's the only thing that makes sense here anyway. You're going to spend all this money on attorney fees on both sides, put these people in a room and don't let them out.
Yeah.
Send their food in, put them in the room. If it takes a week, it takes a week. You don't come out until you have an agreement. Get that agreement, then everybody walks away. Neither side will be happy, but you got an agreement. You can move forward.
All right, so that's the latest on Oregon State and Washington State. What happened today was expected, and they proceed now in the captain's chair, waiting to see what the Supreme Court will do.
Yeah.
But we both believe that Oregon State and Washington State, in the end, will end up being in control of the conference after a settlement.
Yeah.
The outgoing schools will get something. They won't get everything. They won't get equal share, but they'll get something in return.
Yeah, they're going to get – I would think they'll get the revenue from this season divided equally among everyone.
That they were a part of.
12 shares, yeah.
And then the emergency funds will be utilized by WSU and Oregon State
Yeah.
to be able to solidify their situation until they figure out what their next step is.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. From Michigan to the Pac-2, and now I want to talk Trailblazers with you, Godfather. I don't think fans truly understand what the process is they're going through right now. I was criticized last night for just putting out a simple idea that I respected their effort last night,
Right.
considering the circumstances.
Yeah.
They competed. They don't have the talent to win games that are on the floor right now because they have a lot of guys playing big minutes that under normal circumstances would not be playing at all.
Chad, they're playing against a team way more talented than they are and way bigger than they are.
Yes.
That's a huge front line they were playing against.
But to make it clear, it's not just Cleveland. Almost every team in the NBA is more talented than the Portland Trailblazers right now.
Maybe every team, yeah.
All right. So what this is a full rebuild, meaning we're in the very beginning stages of a brand new direction. The Portland Trailblazers, and this is the good thing, I think, they chose a direction. Instead of trying to stay with Dame and hope to contend and get young at the same time, which you can't do, they chose to move in one direction and one direction only. That was to move on from Dame, to gather as many assets as possible, and to go young. And that's what they're doing. Now, it's the beginning stages, so they have a lot of work to do. But this process is not going to take 6 months. It's not going to take a year. This is probably a 3 to 4 year process until they get to where they want to be, is it not?
Absolutely, Chad. I think people need to be honest with themselves on this and look at what they have now and say they're trying. They're trying to move forward now. They're looking at a lot of young players, which is smart. You got to try and find somebody that everybody else missed on. You know, is that Skylar Mays? I don't know. Is that Dwight Reith? I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? But you got to run some people through here, get a look at them. You got to scrounge players from everywhere, because if you look at this team right now, how many of these guys that are playing for them on their roster right now are going to be a starting player on a team contending for the Western Conference Championship? Well, not many of them. And we're not real sure about the ones we think might.
All right. So in the short term, I've stated my desire in terms of what I want to see are two things. One, the development of your young players, namely Scoot and Shaden Sharp.
Right.
And then after that, this year, I'm talking about this year, I want to see development in those two guys. And then I want to step back and continue to watch Chauncey and his staff for one simple question I want the answer to. Can he get the guys to play the way he wants them to? Mm-hmm. We're seeing some signs early on that he might be able to get them to play the way he wants them to.
I agree.
That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're saying is that outside of those two players, Scoot and Shaden, and the coaching staff, what you're looking at this year, next year, and the year after that is finding young players that you can develop that will eventually become key cogs in this team in the future, starting level players.
Right.
All right. If you look at this team right now, I only see two players that I'm certain of that can be starting level players moving into the future who are young. That's Scoot and Shaden.
Right.
And we'll see what they become, but those two players there. And I think DeAndre Ayton is probably a player that you can have on your roster moving forward to continue to build around, because he's young and he's a good player.
If he's still here 3 or 4 years from now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. They have all these veterans on the roster right now, Godfather. You have Matisse Thybulle. You've got Malcolm Brogdon. You have Robert Williams, who's out for the year with the injury. You've got Jeremy Grant. Anthony Simons at some point when they make a decision on Scoot, Shaden, and Ant. These are all players that at some point you're going to move out to bring back the young asset, either young player or draft picks that you'll be able to bring in more young players so you can eventually find more of those starters that you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely true, Chad. You either bring in a young player that you think you can grab and turn him into a really good player. Maybe he's not being used right. Maybe he's had a problem of some sort. You bring him in, you work with him, and develop him into a starting player, at least, maybe even a star. But the other thing you need is more draft picks. You've got to have picks. All these teams out there right now who are going through the rebuilding process have pretty much done it by stockpiling draft picks. And you always look to Oklahoma City. They're the leaders in the clubhouse in doing. They still got like 14 draft picks left. You got to just get picks, but good picks. I'm talking about potential high picks, picks from teams that aren't going to be good, and first-round picks, because that's where you're going to find starting-level players. Now, yes, you can steal a really good player in the second round, but you have to be so lucky and you have to be perfect with those selections. And they're going to have to be sharp. I think their player personnel department's pretty smart. They've made some good decisions. They're going to have to be. Because if you get a first, second, third, fourth round or fourth player in the draft, a top 3 or 4 pick, boy, you can't afford to blow that.
You got to hit on it. So the young teams right now that you look at like that are Oklahoma City, Orlando, and the Utah Jazz.
And Houston. Yes.
A lot of assets, a lot of young players, and they've got the ability and the flexibility to go out there and continue to reshape their roster. So that's where Portland is at. I think the frustration comes from fans where if your expectation this year going into the season was wins, then you're going to have a miserable season because that's not the objective right now. The players that are playing right now, they want to win. The Blazers just aren't good enough to win games on a consistent basis because they don't have the talent for that. So it's not that they're actively tanking. They just don't have the players that you need to win games. And they're injured, too. You got Brogdon, Ant, and Scoot, who are all out right now. Robert Williams is done for the year.
Chad, I thought last night they did a heck of a job staying in the game.
Yeah.
Against a team like that, I thought in the first half, when Cleveland got out to that lead, 14-point lead in the first half, I thought it was over, honestly, because it should have been probably. Cleveland's that much better than them, and they're huge. They have much more overall size. Their front line is very good, and they block shots, they rebound, all those things. But these guys battled away, did their thing, and stayed in the game. And I think, what more can you ask for?
That's exactly what I'm looking for this year.
Yeah.
If they can go out there and compete and play hard and defend the way they have so far this year and, play with energy like that, regardless of whether they win or lose, like that's something I can live with.
Yeah.
And it's fun to watch guys compete and play hard. So with a rebuild, with what Portland is looking at, is this a 2 to 3 year process? Is it a 1 to 2 year process? Is it 3 to 4 years? What's the realistic time span here?
I hate to say it, Chad, but I think it's 3 to 4 years. I think it's going to take that long because what they have right now, picks and young players, don't really add up to having that kind of starting lineup in 3 years that's going to be able to compete. Now, you can get to the playoffs. Yeah, that's fine. You can be that 6th, 7th, 8th seed a couple of years from now. In fact, that is what I think 2 years from now, you should be aspiring to be a playoff team.
Yep.
I think that's fair. Not a championship contender, but in the playoffs to give these guys that playoff experience.
Yeah, and the roster you see today with a lot of the vets, don't grow attached to them because they're not going to be around long term.
No, those are valuable pieces for your future.
For your future. And I went back and we looked at it. In my lifetime since I moved out here, there's only one other time where they came close to a rebuild, and that was shortly after the Maurice Cheeks experiment where the team went through some down years.
Yeah.
And then they went through that period where they drafted B-Roy, LaMarcus, and Greg Oden. And then they got really good as they got right around 2008 before the injuries hit. That's the last time they were in a position to kind of rebuild. They haven't gone through anything like this, what we're seeing right now in the time I've lived out here.
So that's really 2 decades, Chad. And so a lot of people haven't had the pleasure of going through one of these.
No.
But you got to be patient. That's all.
But I do think it's the right path because if you want to build a winner in a small market in the NBA, this is the way you do it. Strip everything down, get assets, and go out and find the right young players either via trade or through draft.
Yeah.
And then piece your roster together with the players, shape it in the image you want, and then go from there. And hopefully those guys will develop.
going to take a GM working in concert with his coach, identifying players for a certain system that they want to play.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the show. We'll talk about the Thursday night football game tonight, which is a big one in the AFC, Bengals and Ravens. We'll do that at 4. But when we come back, the darn auto renewal. I got bit again. Gosh dang it.
It happens to us all.
I hate myself. I still can't believe Eddie Murphy produced a #1 single.
I know it.
My girl likes to party all the time.
Some guys get blessed with way too much talent. It's not really fair to the rest of us.
There was a time in the 80s where anything he touched turned to pure gold.
Yeah, it did.
This is Eddie Murphy right here. Things I've ever seen with my own eyes. He's so good as Axel Foley.
I kind of liked him on Saturday Night Live when he played Gumby.
That was
Remember
good.
that?
I'm Gumby, damn it.
Yeah. That's right.
Can you imagine
God,
that? He
was
calls
fun.
up Rick James. He's like, dude, I want to make a #1 single. All
Yeah.
right, whatever.
Okay.
Sounds good. That reminds me of the conversation before the falling out between Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney because Michael Jackson decided to undercut him when it came to the Beatles catalog. He called up Paul one day out of the blue, and Paul said he answered the phone, and, hey, Paul, it's Mike, in his soft voice. And he asked him, he didn't say if he wanted to get together to make music. He said, hey, do you want to get together and make some hits? That just tells you the mindset that Michael was in back in the early 80s. Do you want to get together and make some hits? And Paul's like, yeah, sounds like a pretty good idea. So they got together and made some great music together.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild to me. Not music. Let's make some hits.
Yeah.
In other words, you're a star. I'm a star. We will create greatness together. And they did. Oh, my goodness. Eddie Murphy. Yeah, he was a shooting star in the 80s.
Yeah.
Everything he touched, he was blown up at. Boy, the more we dig into this Michigan situation with their former assistant, Matt Weiss. So based on U.S. Integrity basically is the company that makes sure that there's no illegal gambling activity going on. They're the ones who alerted the NCAA that Michigan may have some unfortunate activity going on.
Yeah.
So the FBI has been on campus investigating and going through the assistant's computer, Matt Weiss, and we'll see what is uncovered as time goes on. But the only reason that U.S. Integrity would be involved and alert the NCAA to Michigan is because of improper gambling going on. That's the only reason why. That's all they do.
No, my understanding of that company is that they're very good at what they do, and what they do is find people gambling illegally, suspiciously, or not the way they're supposed to do it.
Wow.
And they're really good.
And you said you read that players were being offered immunity?
Yes, I read that, and this, again, rumors, that they're going through the roster of the players, talking to them, offering immunity to ask them questions about this.
All right. Messy.
So, ostensibly, information about what other teams are going to do, making in their minds their team more of a favorite to win, and then putting money down on it.
That would be a logical conclusion.
It would. Right?
We can tell you with certainty that U.S. Integrity would not be involved if it did not have something to do with gambling on some level.
Yeah, they're not interested in sign stealing.
Yeah, they don't care. They don't care about that.
Yeah, unless it has something to do with gambling.
All right. So we'll get back to football here in a moment. I just want to tell you, and I'm going to provide a warning for everyone out there. The auto renewal is great, and it can be a curse all at the same time. And what I do, like you do, like I love John Wilner, Mercury News, because he's great on the Pac-12. So I got this irresistible offer where I got 6 months of access to the newspaper for $1. 6 months for $1. I'm not going to say no to that for good information.
Yeah.
The problem is it's on auto renewal. And if I don't remember to take it off auto renewal, then I'll get punked and have to pay the full price.
Yeah, I would expect after 6 months the price will go up.
From $1.
Yeah.
Well, it happened to me. I woke up yesterday morning. I was like, I had an email saying the charge of $151 was approved. I'm like, I don't recall spending $151 on.
Who sent you that?
I got it from Norton.
Antivirus?
Antivirus. What had happened is that I got in on an introductory rate last year for $39. I don't like overpaying for internet security like anyone else, right? So I'm like, hey, $39, have my own VPN, genius idea. Well, it was right in the middle of Christmas time, so I didn't remember to go in and take it off auto renewal right away. And so when they re-up me at the full meal deal, their biggest package. So now, hey, if you need computer security, I've got access to 10 computers now. I can just send you the download.
Put me on it.
Yeah, you're set. Well, 151 bucks. That's not the $39 Genius special I got last year, Godfather. So I was super bitter. And I reached out to try and get a hold of someone with Norton, but they don't have a phone number you can call. So you got to send a message and say, I would like to have a phone call from you.
I think it's pretty much by design that they don't have a phone number for you to call.
Yeah, by design. And
Yeah.
I got the phone call at like 4 o'clock this morning. The guy's like, oh, well, you said you wanted to call back, but you
4
didn't answer.
o'clock?
Yeah, because they're working on some weird time schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just super bitter because I want a refund and I want to get locked in on the introductory rate again, just like I do every year with Sirius. They hit me up at full price. I'm like, that doesn't work. I need to cancel. Oh, sir, you qualify. And I always get the right price. That's how I like to roll. And now I'm just afraid, like, which places have I signed up for in an introductory rate? I can't remember all of them, Godfather. And I know that payday's coming soon, and I'm going to end up with massive charges from all these different places where I've gotten introductory rates.
Yeah.
What a pain in the backside.
Well, that's the way streaming services are. You sign up, they give you a deal when you sign up.
Yeah, and then you go to the website, and you're like, you can't find where to cancel. They put everything in such small print, and now that I'm nearsighted, I can't see. I don't know where to go. They know what they're doing. It's like getting inside of a casino. You can't find the exit. It's the same thing on a website. It's like, where do I go? And you see it in this small print, and they put it on some off color so you can barely notice it.
You need reading glasses, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
It's costing you money not to have them.
Look at this. Look at the size of text now. I've increased the size of text on my phone.
Yeah.
Look at that. So now you can see. It's so dumb. But now I'm like, I hold the phone way far away from my.
Oh, God.
Oh, no, I can read that now.
I remember those days.
It sucks.
Mhm.
It just happens gradually. And then one day you're like, oh, great, I can't see anymore up close. That's cool. Far away, no problem. Up close, I'm not
Yeah.
really sure. I just hope my daughter doesn't ask me to untangle her necklace again with those little knots.
Oh, gosh. That
Uh,
is tough.
All right. So if you got auto renewals, click it off now and then thank me later. All right. When we come back, we got to talk about this Thursday night football game. This is a big one, Godfather.
Yeah.
Both teams in desperation mode now, coming off home losses. Baltimore to Cleveland and Cincinnati at home to Houston. Both teams need this one tonight. And the winner of this game is going to be in a good position.
Well, I think one of the teams needs it more than the other one does.
All right. You tell me which one next. You got
Gotcha.
the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, 4 o'clock, Chad doing here. We start with college football. Jim Harbaugh and Michigan have accepted the Big Ten's 3-game suspension, meaning Coach Harbaugh is going to miss the next 2 games against Maryland and Ohio State, and the Big Ten will now end its probe on the field. Washington travels to Oregon State Saturday, kickoff at 4:30 on ABC. The Beavs right now are a 2.5-point favorite. Oregon travels to Tempe to take on the Sun Devils. Ducks favored by 22. They have lost their last 2 trips to Sun Devil Stadium. That kickoff is at 1 on Fox. Trailblazers hammered last night by the Cavs. They've dropped 5 straight. Lakers in town tomorrow. Tip at 7. I'll have game day at 4:30. And Thursday Night Football on Prime, 5:15. Bengals at Ravens. Huge game for the AFC playoff picture. Both teams coming off home losses. Baltimore favored by 3.5. More of the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad coming at you right now. Justin Myers coming up at 4:20. All right, be sure to go to YouTube. We have all of our local shows streaming live on YouTube now. Go to youtube.com, and you can pull up our homepage, Rip City Radio 620. Subscribe to the page. You'll find all the live links right there, including Rip City Mornings with Justin Myers, the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad, Blazers Game Day and Fifth Quarter, and Courtside Mondays with Chris Burkhardt. Miranda has chimed in, Godfather.
Oh, good.
Sure you're excited about that.
Yes.
Dear Skunk Vomit, good afternoon, Mr. Doing. Is everything okay? You're 40 minutes into the show, which means that typically you would have been whining and complaining for 39 minutes. Today, not so much. No irritating commute, no assault on your nasal passages from microwave misconduct, no vomiting on about the soul-crushing nature of it getting dark early in the day. Weird. Well, thank you, Miranda. I'll take that as a compliment.
I think we made up for it in the last segment, though, talking about auto renewals.
I hate auto renewals.
Yeah, there you go.
But I can't turn down 6 months of quality content for 99 cents. That's a good deal.
It's like get it for free.
All right, Miranda. And by the way, I didn't find one single person yesterday that thought microwaving fish in the workplace microwave was a good idea.
Yeah, nor
everyone
did
agreed
I.
that it's awful.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah.
I was happy when I came in today and it smelled normal.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, very pleasant, very nice. Very thankful for that. All right, Thursday Night Football tonight. This is a good one, Godfather.
Yes, it is.
The Bengals at the Ravens. Baltimore has an earlier season win over Cincinnati, so they're looking for the season sweep. They're playing at home. They're favored by 3.5. What's interesting here, both teams are coming off brutal home losses. Cleveland, on a last-second field goal, took out Baltimore, and Houston went into Cincinnati against the red-hot Joe Burrow and his Bengals and took them out on a last-second field goal.
Bad loss for the Bengals.
Yes. But what makes this game even better, Godfather, is it's just take a look at the standings right now in the AFC, and it is a jumbled mess. You've got your teams at the top. Kansas City right now at 7-2, but soon after that, it gets murky. Baltimore 7-3, Jacksonville, Miami, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, all with 3 losses. And right now, not the Bengals, but the Houston Texans are the 7th team in the AFC playoff picture at 5-4. So for the Bengals and their schedule coming up the rest of the way, they got some tough games remaining. If they lose tonight, I can guarantee you they're not going to win the division because not only would they be 2 games behind Baltimore, but essentially 3 games because they would have fallen victim of the season sweep.
Yeah. They would lose the tiebreaker.
So based on that information, can I assume which team you think needs tonight more than the other?
The Bengals really need it. And I'll tell you what, they're too good a team not to make the playoffs. And they better not mess around anymore or they're going to miss the playoffs because it's so competitive in that division and in that conference, actually. So they've got to win this game, really. And I think it sets up to be really, it's like a playoff game, really, especially for Cincinnati.
It's a pseudo playoff game. And you're right about the conference because 7 teams get in, but the NFL has exactly what they want right now because after the top team in Kansas City, you have a group of teams sitting there with 3 losses. You've got a couple of teams in the Texans and Bengals with 4, but then all of these teams now are alive. Indianapolis, Buffalo, Las Vegas, the LA Chargers, the Jets, and the Broncos all sitting there right around close to just below 500, and it's going to get really messy. So not just your games in division, but conference games against AFC opponents are going to be critical down the stretch when it comes to tiebreakers. So I guess what I'm trying to say is 9 wins this year is not going to get you into the AFC playoffs. You're going to need minimum of 10, and there might be a 10-win team that, based on tiebreakers, gets left out this year.
What I think is there's going to be some really good wild card teams in the AFC.
Yes.
I mean,
Great
that could
matchups.
that could lead to some first-round upsets. I mean, these teams are capable of going a long way. Several of those that you mentioned are good teams, might be good playoff teams.
Well, I'll say this about Baltimore. You know, we've been trying to figure out over the last few weeks, like, who is the best team in the AFC?
Yeah.
Is it Kansas City? Is it Baltimore? Is it Cincinnati? I'll say this about Baltimore. If you want to separate yourself from the rest of the pack and show that you mean business this year in terms of being a legit Super Bowl contender, this is a game that you have to win.
Yeah.
You're at home. You've got an MVP candidate, Lamar Jackson. You've got a dominant defense. And if you win this game, you basically put the Cincinnati Bengals in playoff jeopardy. They're not going to win the division, and you knock them down a peg, and they're going to be fighting for their playoff lives the rest of the way. And if you're Baltimore and you get this win, not only do you end Cincinnati's bid to win the division, but you also take a step forward and really take control of the division. So if Baltimore is legitimate and a serious Super Bowl contender, this is a game that they probably want to get tonight. And for the Bengals, I mean, you know how this goes, Godfather. You drop this game and go to 5-5, you're going to be fighting, scratching, and clawing the rest of the way.
Yeah, if you lose this one, you have to be almost perfect the rest of the way.
And think about this. How many other teams around the AFC right now, like Kansas City, are pulling for the Ravens tonight because they don't want Cincinnati to win the division?
Yeah. It's probably, in a lot of people's minds, Cincinnati's the best team in that division.
Yes. Yes, but because of the Burrow injury and the slow start to the season, this is what you have. They're up against it right now. I think Kansas City would much prefer a matchup with Baltimore instead of having to deal with the Bengals and Joe Burrow because of how well they've played against them over the last couple of years, especially in the postseason and in the regular season. I mean, the Bengals have won 3 of the last 4 against those 2 teams. And Joe Burrow. I don't want to deal with Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of teams in the AFC pulling for Baltimore to pull this off tonight, to put the Bengals in a situation where if they get in, they're going to be playing 3 road games to have to get to the Super Bowl. That would be my guess.
Oh, you're absolutely. I don't think there's any guesswork to it. I mean, that's the whole conference is rooting for Baltimore tonight.
And I'm a big fan of Lamar Jackson. Like, I think tonight's a big game for him as an individual because everyone likes Lamar and they all admire his talents. But you know how it is when we look at Lamar compared to Joe Burrow, we don't consider those 2 guys on the same level because we don't think that Lamar can drop back and deliver the football from the pocket on time, on target, on a regular basis like Burrow does. Win games from the pocket, manipulate the defense from the pocket, right? So I think for Lamar to come out tonight and play a big-time game and lead his team to victory would do a lot for him moving forward in terms of where he is in the pecking order of quarterbacks in the AFC.
Oh, if he wins that game tonight, he gets right near the top, if not at the top, for MVP consideration.
Yes.
Because he's having a really good year. He's transformed himself into more of a pocket-type passer. He's doing well with that. New offensive coordinator. They're playing the game a little differently now. And this is going to be a renaissance season for him, it looks like.
He has. He's turned himself around. And remember, he was the crazy guy without an agent looking for a brand-new deal last year.
Yeah.
And now he's got the deal, and he's going out, and he's living up to the contract.
He is.
He's playing terrific football right now. And for the Bengals, they're scary when they're down because they're good. They're so much better than their 5-4 record. That's a dangerous football team because they can get after it defensively. They've got good balance on offense. They've got Joe Burrow. They've got weapons on the outside. That's just a well-run team and well-coached team, and they've got great leadership at the quarterback position. And Joe Burrow, you know how it is. It's Patrick Mahomes and then Joe Burrow. Those are the 2 best quarterbacks in the game right now.
You know, it's funny, though. You mentioned Lamar Jackson. One of the more likable guys in football, I think.
Yeah.
People really respect his toughness. I think they respect the idea that he stands up and admits when he messed up.
Yep.
He's always accountable for his actions.
Yep.
And he's one of the few guys, he's without an agent. He's trying to get more money. In many cases, people would be kind of rooting against a guy like that.
Yeah.
No, everybody was on his side. The Baltimore fans were on his side. They wanted him to get that contract. They really respect him. His teammates respect him. His opponents respect him a lot, I think. And so you can't help but root for a guy like that.
I love it. I love his motto. He wears a shirt all the time. Says nobody cares. Work harder. He puts in the time. His teammates love him, and he is a superstar there in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
Face of the franchise. Superstar. So tonight's game is huge, and it's going to have major implications moving into the future in that AFC playoff picture. And then on Sunday night, this is wild to me, but a few weeks ago, everyone would have been like, dude, get Minnesota Denver out of that Sunday night window. What an awful game. And now all of a sudden, Denver and Minnesota are the two hottest teams of football. Minnesota's won 5 straight. They're back from the dead. And Denver has won 3 straight with back-to-back wins over Kansas City and Buffalo. And you got this game in Denver on Sunday night. What a coaching job by Sean Payton, and what a job by Coach O'Connell to keep the Vikings in a position, even though they had ridiculous injuries, especially at the quarterback position where Kirk Cousins is going down. Joshua Dobbs comes in. They get him through the first game when he didn't know what was going on, and they went out and dominated the Saints last week. That's impressive. It's amazing.
I was just trying to think of like 3 weeks ago, would we be saying, well, Minnesota and Denver are the 2 hottest teams in the league.
It sounds crazy.
Get out of here with that stuff.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I told you. I was so happy on that Monday night right after the game because I knew that Denver had saved their season.
You didn't care how they got it either. That was by any means necessary, right?
I told you. I don't care if it's 3-0. I don't care if it's 6-0. I don't care what they need to do to get the win.
12 men on the field. None of that matters.
No, because winning road games in the NFL is hard. So hard to do. And when it happens, it's like, okay, that's big time right there. So this is a big game. And I like Minnesota's story. I love Josh Dobbs, and I like their coach. I mean, it's not easy to coach through those type of obstacles, and yet he's done it. What he's done with Joshua Dobbs coming over from Arizona is remarkable.
Yeah.
And Dobbs played well last week. So I'm pretty excited. This is good stuff. The NFL, it pays off all the time. They get what they want. You have almost every fan base is in some way or another involved in a playoff race because you've got so many teams in the hunt. There are a few teams that stink to high heaven, but that's few and far between.
Their fans are excited, too, because they're in the quarterback derby. You know, they're
the draft is rich with quarterback talent this coming year.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at tonight. Bengals, Ravens on Prime. And I like that. We need some good primetime games. Buffalo, Denver turned out to be really good. Tonight's game should be a barn burner. And then Sunday night, you got the Broncos and Vikings, which are 2 good stories in the NFL. Those are good primetime type games.
Hey, if you can't get excited about the 2 hottest teams in the NFL, you can't get excited, Chad.
I just thought it was funny last week that you bagged on the idea of Baltimore and Cleveland all week.
Because I didn't want any part of watching that game. I did not. I'll admit it. I did not watch that game.
I know, because going in top 2 defenses, I thought it was going to be a 10-9, 16-13 struggle. It turned out to be phenomenal.
I missed a good game. My bad.
Oh, well. I'll do that again, too. I'm like, I'm not watching that garbage.
As my wife would say, there'll be other games. I hear that when I'm watching too many football games.
Plenty of games.
Yes.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. When we come back, the host of Rip City Mornings, he's also the host of the most transparent show in Portland. He's an Oregon Duck honk, as you guys like to let me know. Justin Myers is going to join us next. All right, Godfather. U.S. integrity that we have mentioned in regards to Michigan football. Here's what it says on their website in terms of their mission statement. Quote, at U.S. Integrity, our goal is to help ensure that every sporting competition is fair and transparent. We partner with some of the largest professional sports leagues and collegiate conferences in the U.S., as well as licensed sports betting operators and regulators to ensure sports betting integrity in every play, every game, every sport. That is from founder and CEO Matt Holt.
Yeah.
There's only one reason why they would be sniffing around any program. Interesting.
Something's going on, right?
Something is going on. All right. The host of Rip City Mornings, also the most transparent person in radio here in the town. Duck Honk. He's everything. It's the one and only Justin Myers who's back. What's up, Jay?
Have we found who microwaved the fish yet? Do we
Okay.
know who we figured? Because I can tell you, it was not me. I would never microwave fish.
And I know you wouldn't.
I do a lot of things in the office that are questionable. I'll admit that. But microwaving fish, not one of them. So when I left after we wrapped up Rip City Mornings yesterday at 9 a.m., there was no fish. So it started sometime after 9. We got a timeline, just like they do on those murder shows. We got to create a timeline, boys.
Well, you know, it's great. And I know you wouldn't because you're one of those people like me that if you take something out of the microwave with 21 seconds or 19 seconds left, you always hit the reset button because leaving spare seconds on the microwave clock is unacceptable too.
I agree.
And
Who
Justin,
are these psychopaths? Who are these psychopaths that leaves 14 seconds on the clock?
I hate that.
Honest to goodness. What, like, who raised you? What is wrong with you? Who hurt you?
Yeah.
Tell us, who hurt you?
Okay, so the thing is, Dwight and I were talking about this because I was furious because the smell of like hideous fish. First of all, who eats microwave fish? You're a sicko. But number two, it was seeping into the studio, Justin.
Yes. It was
But
bad.
as I started to get fuming mad, I realized that I don't want to know the answer to who did it because I like everyone in the office, honestly. And if I found out who did it, it would change the way I view them for the rest of my life.
Well, and here's the other thing that I don't know if people understand. Our office, I don't know who's in charge of the thermostat, but they are not doing a bang up job because it is either ice cold in the studio or, as it is most days, it is scorching hot. So not only is it hot, like hotter than a normal office should be, then you add fish smell. Then you add the fact that normally you have to keep the studio door open. So you've got hot thermostat, fish smell, door open. Disaster. It was just disastrous.
It's always cold in here in the afternoon.
Yeah.
It's freezing.
Really, because it is boiling hot in the morning, like boiling hot.
Yeah.
And they have a fake button in that studio, by the way. There's a button in there.
No,
There's a
useless.
thermostat in there. It's fake. It's the same as the closed door button on the elevator. It's just there to make you feel better. It doesn't work.
Yeah. And I always mash that closed door button on the elevator like it's somehow magically it's going to make the doors close.
Yeah.
Because I am one of those people, like if I see a crowd coming to an elevator or people that I don't think I want to be in the elevator with, I just mash that button hoping it closes in time.
You just pretend you don't hear the guy going, "Hey, one more." And you're like, what? Nope, sorry, missed it. Sorry, bud.
Dude, we got so many things we want to talk about with you today, and they're all good. So let's start with this. Your reaction to the college football playoff rankings, which saw some changes. Georgia's number 1, Michigan 2, Ohio State now number 3, with Florida State at 4. But the weird part is Washington still sits at 5 with 3 top 25 wins, and they're undefeated just like Florida State.
We've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. Like the College Football Playoff Committee are a bunch of cowards. I'll say it right now. They're a bunch of cowards. They are letting the schedule do the work for them instead of doing what they should be doing, which is evaluating a team from week to week. Now, first off, can we all just kind of admit it's a little bit silly that we do this like Survivor type week by week show, like somebody's going to get voted off the island, when really we should be just evaluating these teams. And at the end of the regular season, the end of the championship Saturday, then comes the rankings, then comes the top 4. Like that should be the way it is. But now they're showing their hand, which is that they do not respect the Pac-12 the way that we all thought the Pac-12 was going to be respected all year long. Yeah. There is no way, shape, or form you can ever convince me that right now Florida State is playing better football than Washington. Like the only thing you have got is that Washington did not look that great against Arizona State and against Stanford. That's it. That's all you got. They won the games. They're undefeated. They've beaten 3 ranked teams. They scheduled Michigan State out of conference. Not their fault that Michigan State was a dumpster fire and was going to completely collapse, especially the week before them. That's not Washington's fault. They had 3 wins over current top 25 teams. And the one win in the 7-point win against Arizona earlier in the season looks a whole lot better now than it did back then. The committee is showing their hands. And once again, the Pac 12 is dealing with years and years and years of bad football coming to fruition. This is bias. This is just the perception of the way the Pac-12 used to be as opposed to the way it is. I think Softy up in KJR threw out a tweet that, yeah, the Pac-12 is good at football this year, but the last 10 years of poor leadership from both presidents and from the commissioner, subpar football is coming back to haunt this conference in its final year.
Okay, now if you're done with your rant, let me ask you
Yes.
this. Chad and I are not real optimistic about the Ducks' chances, even if they win out and capture the conference championships. Tell me, in your opinion, what has to happen for Oregon to get into the CFP?
All right, Georgia has to win the SEC undefeated. Like that has to happen,
Yeah.
and that gives Alabama 2 losses. I believe Ohio State, who is currently ranked ahead of Michigan, has to win out, go undefeated. And in that scenario, if those 2 things happen and you eliminate Alabama, I think Oregon, toe to toe, can get in as a 1-loss conference champion over Texas, even if Florida State goes undefeated. I believe that's the way that Oregon gets in. If Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC title game and Ohio State and Florida State both remain undefeated, it's going to get dicey. It's going to be troublesome for the Pac-12. So the scenario for Oregon fans, I believe, root for Washington this weekend. You want Washington as highly rated as possible when Oregon rematches them in the Pac-12 title game. Ohio State, Georgia, they both need to win out. And I think if Oregon avenges that loss to Washington, I think they sneak in over Texas. Because again, going back to what the committee has said, the last couple of weeks, is that of the 1-loss teams, Oregon has been ranked higher than both Alabama and Texas. Now, they won't be ranked higher than Alabama if they beat Georgia. I do think if Oregon beats Washington, Texas beats Oklahoma, I think Oregon still stays ahead in that race. But got to have Georgia beat Alabama. Can't have the Crimson Tide in it.
All right, right now, Justin, this is one of the things working against Oregon right now, but the Ducks have the 52nd ranked strength of schedule. And if you move up the list, right now, Washington is number 40 on that list, but inside the top 10, Alabama at number 2, and then Texas sitting there at number 8.
All right, so conspiracy theory time. So buckle up, boys, because it's going to get interesting. Because this is the thing that I've always had a frustration with conferences like the SEC, right? The reason that Oregon's strength of schedule is falling further and further down is when they played Colorado was ranked. Well, Colorado has fallen apart in the last 6 weeks of the college football season because they had to play actual real teams. When Oregon played Washington State was ranked. And then guess what? They had to go up against good teams in conference because the Pac-12 actually makes you play against each other as opposed to the SEC. Because in the last 10 years, you know how many times Georgia has played Alabama in the regular season in the SEC in the last 10 years?
It's like once, right?
One time. One time. So that rigs the rankings so that your top teams, if they don't have to play each other or they don't have to play each other till the end of the year, and the rankings stay higher and higher as opposed to the Pac-12. When Oregon played Washington State and Colorado, they were both ranked. Well, they had to play good teams, and they also had to play Oregon. They lost. They fell out of the top 25. Same thing with USC. USC was ranked when Oregon beat them, and then that's what happens when you lose. You fall down the rankings. So it's the SEC, tip of the cap to them. They figured out a way to rig the system.
Justin, I'm curious what you think about this. I was quite surprised to see the Beavers with being a 2.5-point favorite over Washington this Saturday. Do you see the game that way?
I see it kind of straight up, Dwight. I do. So I guess if you go by the adage, if you get kind of those 3 points at home, it started as Washington -2, and this is a 5.5-point swing.
Yeah,
that's a big money swing. I think a lot of that is probably the perception of Washington because they've been playing close games. They really haven't blown anybody's doors off really since they beat Oregon. So I think a lot of that comes back to the perception of Washington. Also, Oregon State is a tough team to beat at Reser Stadium, right? The
Yeah.
Oregon State team that just blew the doors off of Stanford, and I guess you can go with the comparison, right? Is that Washington essentially played a 3-point game with Stanford, and Oregon State just blew their doors off, but that was at Reser as opposed to being on the farm for Washington. And the Beavs have beaten Utah at home significantly. They only scored 7 points. They blew the doors off of Stanford. They beat UCLA significantly when Oregon State is at Research State. Maybe it's that stupid chainsaw they play. I don't know. maybe it has something to do with the construction finally being done. But they are a different team at Research State. It's going to be electric atmosphere on Saturday. I think it's kind of a straight up pick 'em game. I still think I would lean a little bit towards Washington because I think Penix is a better quarterback. Not that much, but better than DJU. But if the Beavers turn this thing into a slugfest, and it might rain, it might storm, Beavs can walk away with a big upset.
Yeah, I like the Beavs to win. I really do. I think they're going to win the game. I think they're going to be able to run the football, and that's going to open up things for DJU. But more importantly, I just like their aggressiveness on defense. And their secondary, after getting walloped by Washington State, has steadily gotten better throughout the course of the year. So I can't wait for that game. You still like Washington, Godfather?
Yeah, I do, Chad. I really do. I just not sure I trust Oregon State secondary.
All right, Oregon's at ASU. They're a big favorite. They've dropped the last 2 games down there in 17 and 19. Do you have any concerns about the game on Saturday?
Oh, Chad, I've always got concerns. Are you kidding me? I've always got concerns. Like, hey, guys, stop me if you've heard this before. Oregon has a good team. They take a tough loss in the regular season, but you know what? They bounce back and win some games and get back in the mix, not only in the conference, but get back in the mix in the national title picture, maybe even work themselves up into 6 or 7. And if they win out, possibly getting into the college football playoff or maybe getting back into the national title picture, only to go down to Arizona, the state, whether it's Arizona or Arizona State, in the month of November. Yeah, nothing bad has ever happened at this particular point in the season for Oregon when they've got everything laid out in front of them. And I know that uniforms aren't magic, and I know there is no magic dark cloud that is hanging over the Grand Canyon State, but I have suffered too many just gut-wrenching losses down in that state. One thing I will not miss about the Pac-12 is Oregon having to play a game in November in the state of Arizona. Dennis Dixon tore up his knee in 2007. Kellen Clemens broke his leg in 2005. Chad just mentioned 2017, 2019. I mean, how many times does Oregon have to go down to Arizona with everything on the line, big-time favorite, only to blow it in that state? All that being said, I love Dan Lanning. I like the way he has approached this season. I like the way he has sold the message of anything that's happened before doesn't matter. So I have concern because I'm a crazy Oregon honk, as Chad has said. By the way, have you been getting emails from more Beaver fans? Is that why you're coming after me?
No.
Are the Beaver fans emailing you still?
I've gotten enough throughout the course of time that you've been on the radio station that I know what they think about you. You're a duck honk.
They do. They love me. They love me in court.
But to your credit, you don't hide it. You let everyone know, look, I'm a duck honk, just so you're aware. And I respect that.
Most transparent man in radio, boys. Look, this isn't some marketing ploy. This isn't some gag, this inside joke that nobody knows what it is. This is a real deal. I live this every day.
Oh, good. Okay. Big story of the day is the fact that Michigan has dropped the appeal. It seems now that Harbaugh will not be talking on Friday. In fact, there won't be a hearing, and he's going to accept his suspension and move on. Why do you think this is going on? What's your theory on this one?
Boy, it's getting smellier in Ann Arbor than our fish smelling office yesterday, isn't it?
Yeah,
because it sounds like there may have been some staff members, whether they're assistant coaches or not, that may have been hitting some online gambling. Because they turned real fast, didn't they?
Yeah.
That was super fast. Michigan will not take this line down. As a matter of fact, they were trying to fast track it through the judicial system to get that injunction or that temporary restraining order heard. Rumor has it that Jim Harbaugh was sitting on the team bus outside of Beaver Stadium in Penn State, ready to wait for the appeal to be heard and him to just, like a superhero, jog on the sideline. And 6 days later, they're like, you know what? Fair punishment. We're all good here. Like, this doesn't make a lick of sense, boys. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because I think what a lot of people are thinking is that there is more to the story, and the last thing they want is to have to do any kind of testifying under oath because that could open up a whole can of legal worms. It's much different lying about hamburgers to the NCAA, which Jim Harbaugh did. And
Yeah.
that's how he got suspended the first 3 games. He lied to them about hamburgers as opposed to lying to a judge and knowing some things that might get unearthed. Yeah, they turned real fast on that.
All right, I want to play this for you. This is another big story today. Carissa Thompson, who's on Thursday Night Football on Prime, had this to say about her sideline reporting days. Take a listen.
And I've said this before, so I haven't been fired for saying it, but I'll say it again. I would make up the report sometimes because A, the coach wouldn't come out at halftime, or it was too late. And I was like, I didn't want to screw up the report. So I was like, I'm just going to make this up because first of all, no coach is going to get mad if I say, hey, we need to stop hurting ourselves. We need to be better on third down. We need to stop turning the ball
Pressure
over.
the quarterback.
We need, yeah, exactly, and do a better job of getting off the field. Like they're not going to correct me on that.
Right.
So I'm like, it's fine. I'll just make up the report.
It would.
What's your reaction to that?
I mean, of all the dumb things you could say, even if it was true, why would you ever say that? Look, Dwight went to journalism school. Right? Dwight's a big J journalist. He writes stories and he reports and he has sources. I'm in the entertainment business, baby. But, I don't understand why, with such low stakes, because that was kind of the joke there, right? Is that we've all seen 99% of halftime and pregame and after the game coaching interviews is what? Just like they said, we got to run the ball. We got to eliminate penalties. We got to eliminate mistakes. Why would you admit to making any of that up? Even if it was true, as far as I know, and I'm friends with a fair amount of sideline reporters, this is not a normal thing. And if it was something that Carissa Thompson did, I don't understand why you would say that out loud for really a cheap laugh. It was just, it's such high risk for such low stakes. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Huh. All right, brother. Well, we appreciate your time. It's always great to talk with you. And I know you're excited about this weekend. It's going to be another great Saturday of college football, brother.
Big Saturday of football. Also got a big show coming up tomorrow. It's Fancy Coffee Friday. And
who's your guest at 8:20?
Third hour, ratings bonanza. All right. So skyrocketing numbers as Chad Doing joins the big show tomorrow.
All right.
Back on the big show.
Yeah.
Ratings gold tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I'm talking about right there.
I suppose now I have to listen.
Oh, Dwight, you listen every day.
Well, every other
I know
day.
you do. Because every time I screw up, you are right there. You're
That's
on me.
right. I'm listening constantly.
All right. You're the man, dude. I'll talk to you in the morning, 8:20.
You guys are the best.
There he is, Justin Myers.
I love watching him on YouTube, too.
He's good. He's an animated character, that guy.
Yes, he is.
Oh, yeah. Little Pet Shop Boys.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Oaks. Appreciate that. You and I will dive into the Carissa Thompson comments coming up at 5:20.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm okay with that. You want to talk a little Carissa Thompson? I'm okay with that.
You're okay with Carissa Thompson, period, right?
Very much so.
Yeah.
I got no issues with Carissa.
Good song.
It's a great song.
Nice going, Oaks. Way to go.
All right, Rip City Drive. That's Dwight. I'm Chad. We'll come back. And I think we're going to talk a little Draymond Green. Is that what we're
what'd he
getting into
do?
here? He crazy, Godfather. He crazy.
Yeah.
Not that he got suspended, but I think we might have good understanding as to why he chose to choke out Rudy Gobert. And it's
Yeah.
because he's a good teammate. I think it's because he's a good teammate and he cares about the guys he plays with.
Well, at least one of the guys he plays with. Yeah.
But if there's one guy you're going to take care of and make sure you got his back, it's that guy.
Yeah.
We'll explain what that means coming up next. You got the Rip City Drive. I'm only human, Godfather.
Well, some people would argue with that, but go ahead.
How many players around the NBA were jealous that Draymond was the one that got to choke out Rudy Gobert?
Yeah, I'm afraid Rudy is not very well liked in the NBA.
There are a lot of players who probably thought that was great, seeing Draymond choke him out.
Yeah.
He's not a well-loved guy around the league, is he?
He's not, for whatever reason.
Do we know why Draymond decided to choke him out, besides the fact that it was fun? Did he say that it was because he was trying to protect Clay? Was that the excuse?
Well, that's what he said, that this guy, Rudy, had his hands on Clay. That's what he said. Apparently, there's been a long-standing feud between them.
Interesting. All right, so this is fascinating, but Draymond got suspended for 5 games. I guess we'll start with this. Was that a fair suspension, 5 games, for putting a guy in a chokehold?
I think given his past
He's a repeat offender.
problems, I thought it would be more. I really did. I thought he'd go a little harder on him. But it's funny. Draymond always seems to get a bit of a pass. He's quite a media guy, and
He's a winner, Godfather.
yeah, he's a winner. So people like him. That's the big thing. People do like him because he's when he's not crazy, he's a pretty charming guy.
Yeah, he's really good with the media, answers all the questions.
Mhm.
He's a funny guy, but I mean, does it somewhat irritate you that at times it would appear that Commissioner Silver's not consistent in terms of handing out discipline?
That's my observation, Chad, that he's very inconsistent in what he decides to do when he penalizes people. And there's been some that he's like the Bridges suspension when he was involved with spousal abuse and those kinds of things. And then the John Morant thing. There's people who've argued both of those suspensions pretty heavily.
All right. There was someone, I can't remember his name, but someone floated out this idea on social media that there's a correlation between Draymond suspensions and the time that Steph Curry's not playing because of injury.
Well, you know who floated that out?
Who?
Rudy. Rudy said it after the game.
Oh, it was Gobert.
Yeah, he said it after the game. He said, "Oh no, he always seems to get himself kicked out when Steph's not playing." And everybody laughs. Yeah, right.
So Gobert knew what was going on.
Apparently, word has gotten around on that. Yes.
And maybe Draymond even jokingly told Gobert at some point, like, yeah, I just didn't want to be in there because Steph is out.
Yeah.
Well, credit to the Trailblazers' Tom Haberstroh, who actually he took what Gobert said a little seriously and dug into some of the numbers. What did you discover in terms of Haberstroh's research on Draymond Green's suspensions and how it lines up with Steph Curry's inactivity?
Well, Tom is a good guy, and I trust him implicitly, a man of integrity, and he's pretty good at looking up statistical things like
So,
this.
in other words, Haberstroh wouldn't lie on a sideline report.
I don't think he'd make it up. No, good point. No, apparently 7 of Draymond Green's last 11 ejections, 7 of his last 11 have occurred in games where Steph Curry did not play. That's a pretty amazing stat, isn't it? That's a Haber stat right there. That's one to remember.
That's good analytics.
It is.
So it would appear that with that correlation that Draymond Green doesn't like to play if Steph Curry's not playing.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, hey, we're going to lose anyway. Why should I play?
I think this is a signs of being a good teammate. It's like, don't worry, Steph. I know you feel down right now because you're away from the guys. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm going to join you.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch this. I'm going to choke out Rudy. I'll get booted for 5 games. You'll be out for another 5 games, and we'll be together.
It's all about solidarity. That's what it's about.
Wow. That's pretty funny. I can imagine, like, dude, I've been in this situation before, like when you play on certain teams or you have guys you love to play with. If I know my guy is sick or one of my buddies is out, it's not the same. It's not as much fun. Wait, what, you're not going to play, dude? Well, I don't want to be there. That sucks.
Yeah, forget about the millions I'm earning to play.
Yeah.
And all the people who might have showed up to support me. And the fact that maybe we can win without him. Nah, I think I'll just take the day off.
Dude, that is so funny. Draymond is picking his spots when he tries to get suspended.
I mean, let me ask you this, Chad. 7 out of the last 11. Is there any chance that's coincidence?
No.
I
Not
don't
with
think so.
Draymond. He's too smart.
Yeah, I don't think that's coincidence.
What was weird about this scuff up is it happened right after tip off.
Yeah.
That's
way
not too
early.
often you see it that early in the game.
Yeah.
Usually you got to require at least a couple of quarters for guys to bang into each other and get pissed.
I agree.
Not here. They got after it right away. Klay Thompson, Draymond. And Draymond, someone put together a highlight package of Draymond's shortcomings on the floor.
Oh, there's some nasty stuff.
Oh, gosh. I hadn't seen the highlight of him kicking Steven Adams in the nuts in a while. He nailed him.
Boy, that's a guy you really don't want to fight with, too.
No, Draymond is ready to go.
Yeah, but Steven Adams, man, that guy is an executioner.
Yeah.
He's huge.
And he kicked him squarely, just right between the
Yes.
legs. Or as I remember Adams referred to it, right in the acorns. Kick me in the acorns.
Yeah.
Painful.
I think he, yeah.
Yeah, Draymond's one of those guys where he's annoying, but I sure wish he was on my team. I'd want to play with Draymond because he's
Sure.
smart and he knows how to win. And he gets
And-
under guys' skin.
Well, and he'd protect you. If somebody came after you, he would protect you.
100%. You love guys like that.
Yeah, he's like the policeman in hockey.
Yes. Or if I was on his team and I got sick and was going to miss a few games, he would intentionally get ejected so he would join me.
Yeah, he would hold
I
your
like
hand.
that. I
Yeah.
think that's a good move by Draymond.
Yeah, let's go somewhere, watch the game, and get some chicken wings, right?
And there's not too many guys that Draymond respects, but you know he has full respect of he adores Steph Curry. Everyone on the team does. They all respect him.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, that's really a good time. Choke out Rudy Gobert, which everyone in the league loves because everyone hates Rudy. Gets to hang out with Steph for a while. Misses 5 games. Gets a chance to rest the body. Early season NBA. Who cares?
Yeah, and probably settle an old score he had with Rudy. There must have been something going on previously. It's just a kind of chance to get even.
I wouldn't even be surprised if he had a wager with Steph. Like, hey, I bet you I can get suspended tonight right after tip-off. No way, dude.
Yeah.
You're not going to do that.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
watch me.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. They called it, a lot of media guys called it a headlock. That was a rear naked choke. That's what it was from the MMA world.
And he didn't hesitate at all, man. He just went right for him and got him in the chokehold.
And after he pulled him away, he didn't let him go. He kept on to the point where his coach is standing there like, let him go. Let him go.
Yeah.
No, he held him on a little while longer.
What was kind of telling is that Cat was there to try and help, but it wasn't like a severe.
No, he didn't.
Even the teammates were like, well, Rudy does kind of deserve that a little bit.
Yeah. Somebody said it was because of all his COVID stuff where he was, giving other people COVID, but
Yeah.
no.
I don't think that's what it's about. I think guys get tired of elbows. Maybe they just think he's kind of a B on the court because he's got the the French activity going on.
Well, they resent him too. He's been Defensive Player of the Year basically because he's 7'20" or whatever he is, and
He's got long
I don't think
arms.
they don't believe he's as talented as most of the players in the league. He's just long.
So just remember that in the future, if Steph is out,
Yeah,
the Draymond suspension soon to follow. 7 of 11 times.
it's funny. It's 7 and 11. Craps.
Or
It's like a crap game.
I was thinking Big Bite, 7-Eleven, because we tried to suck Diet Coke out of wieners.
Oh God.
We did. You won, too. That
Oh
pisses
no,
me off.
that never happened. That wasn't real, was it? We didn't have any.
You and I in this studio poured out wieners and tried to see who could be the first to suck Diet
Oh.
Coke out of it.
Well,
I know because I
who
bought
won?
them.
Yeah.
You did.
I did.
Yeah. You handled the wiener better than I did,
Yeah,
Godfather.
sure did.
More experience.
Yeah.
All right, we'll come back. We'll dive into the mess at Michigan, and then we'll get into Carissa Thompson and her bizarre admittance. And by the way, Tony in Boring made a very good point in regards to Justin Myers, who he thought he had no idea why Carissa Thompson was being transparent, right?
Yeah.
Go figure. The self-proclaimed most transparent man in sports talk radio doesn't agree with her being transparent. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a very good point, Tony. Hey, Justin, you claim to be the most transparent, yet Carissa Thompson's transparent. You got a problem with that?
Shouldn't.
I know. I don't understand. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, we're 15 minutes away from Thursday Night Football on Prime. Bengals at the Ravens. Big time game in the AFC. And with the playoff picture, both teams coming off home losses. Baltimore is looking for the season sweep. They are set as 3.5-point favorites. Jim Harbaugh and Michigan have accepted the Big Ten's 3-game suspension, meaning Harbaugh will miss the next 2 games. They play Maryland and Ohio State, and the Big Ten will end its probe. On the field, Washington, Oregon State, Saturday, kickoff at 4:30 from Reeser. It's on ABC. Pregame on radio at 2:30 on your home of the Bees, 1190 KX. Oregon State, a 2.5-point favorite. Oregon is in Tempe to take on the Sun Devils. The Ducks are favored by 22. They've dropped their last 2 at Sun Devil Stadium. Kickoff set for 1 on Fox. The Trailblazers in action tomorrow. The Lakers are in town. Tip at 7, game day at 4:30 right here in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Well, Godfather, this Michigan situation is getting better by the moment. Based on what we can uncover, it appears, because everyone wanted to know where the leak came from.
Right.
Like who told someone about the sign stealing. Everyone thought it was an inside job, but what it looks like is U.S. Integrity, which is the company that works for the NFL, for the NCAA, different conferences. They'll work for individual schools. They're the ones that make sure that there's no suspicious activity going on with gambling.
Right.
And if they're called in, they're only called in for one reason, and that's to make sure that there's no underhanded activity going on when it comes to gambling and gambling only. Well, based on what we can uncover so far, is it looks like U.S. Integrity, through their investigation into gambling, they stumbled across the information in regards to sign stealing.
Yeah.
Now, it's possible that the sign stealing and the whole deal with Michigan and Connor Stallions, that information, we don't know, but it could have been used as part of their gambling efforts with their former assistant coach who's no longer on staff, Matt Weiss. But that's what it sounds like. It sounds like, just like a lot of things, the FBI will do this, where they'll do a broad investigation on, let's say, organized crime. And then through their investigation or tapings of different activities, they'll stumble across something else that's going on.
Yeah.
Well, they'll be like, wait a second, what this guy is going on? Like, who was it? Tim Donaghy. The FBI did not originally open up an investigation on Tim Donaghy. They were doing surveillance, I think, on one of the crime families, and I forgot which one.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Colombo crime family, but it was one of the crime families. Well, through their surveillance, they uncovered information that there was an NBA official who was involved in a betting scandal. So sometimes it's like a wide net. You throw it out, and sometimes you bring in all sorts of fish just through your process of investigation. That's what happened here. They get the computers, they start going through, and they're like, wait a second, what's this sign stealing stuff going on?
Yeah. Well, you go back to the old days in Chicago, Al Capone, the great gangster. They were investigating him for a long time, couldn't figure out how to prosecute him and put him down the river. They finally indicted him on tax evasion. So here's this guy who was responsible for killing people and running all kinds of operations. They sent him to prison on tax evasion charges because that's all they could prove in court. But it's just exactly what you're talking about. You cast that wide net and you come up with all sorts of things that weren't your individual goal for finding him.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
They're looking into all kinds of things, and then allegedly they come up with the sign stealing thing and think maybe that's a bit of an edge that would cause them to go ahead and bet money on the outcome of these games.
Yeah, in fact, I watched a real crime drama, a husband and wife who they had come over from the Middle East, and their daughter was raised here in the U.S. The FBI had the father under surveillance for possible terrorist activity. So he was on a watch list. So they had their home bugged, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, their daughter ended up dying in the house. And the mom and the husband concocted a story about how it was self-defense and she was trying to attack the dad and so forth. Well, what happened is the FBI had uncovered through all of their surveillance, they came across the audio on their surveillance tape of the actual crime taking place and realizing that it was all fabricated, the
Yeah.
story.
They just killed her, right?
The mom and dad killed the girl, but
Yeah.
the FBI just stumbled across the audio through their surveillance. And so the father ended up getting in prison for life because they found out just through surveillance. That's amazing.
Well, from all I've heard of U.S. integrity, you would be wise not to mess around too much in the gambling space because these guys are good.
I wish the government in our country could be as smooth as a company like U.S. Integrity.
Well, we could put them together with Chick-fil-A and who else, Chad?
In-N-Out,
In-N-Out,
Amazon.
Amazon. This government would never run so well if we got
Gosh.
all those companies together.
It's amazing to me. All right, so we got the word today that Michigan and Jim Harbaugh suddenly decided, you know what? We'll accept the penalty. I'll be out the next couple of games. I'll be back for the playoff. But
No
you know
problem.
what? Big Ten, no problem.
Yeah, I was going to come out and be really angry and speak at this hearing on Friday, but I'll change my mind. It's no big deal. I'll just serve out the suspension.
What's your take on that? What do you think's going on?
Well, I think they're worried. I think they're worried for a lot of reasons that they might be in hot water. And if they're into court, they might have to lie on the stand, which would be perjury, or during the preparations for any sort of court case, there's discovery, which means the other side would get a look at their computers, their emails, etc. And there's probably things there they don't want out.
Yeah, so agree to the suspension. The Big Ten ends their probe. The NCAA will continue their investigation, and this frees up Michigan to finish out their football season.
And try to do it before U.S. Integrity comes out with federal charges for the FBI to investigate.
For the assistant coach. That's pretty crazy. With all this information now, I think you're right. I think Michigan thought, you know what? Let's just fall on the sword here. We don't need anyone digging around.
Yeah.
We don't need the Big Ten doing any more probing. And we don't want to be put on the stand and be caught in perjury. Let's just accept it and move on. And I think with these findings and everything we're hearing today, I think this is the end of Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. I think after this year and all the guys he's going to lose to the NFL, this is his swan song at Michigan. They're going to try and win a championship, but after this year, I think he's gone.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if Michigan would be happy to say goodbye at this point.
Yeah.
They don't need this.
No. And I'm not saying Jim Harbaugh is responsible for his assistant coach pulling off some type of, gambling shenanigans. If that is the case, and I don't think Jim Harbaugh would get involved with something like that. I don't think he's that dumb. So,
But by the rules of the NCAA, he's responsible even if he knows nothing about it.
yeah. Yeah, and I got to be honest with you. I can't hold a head coach accountable for that. If some coach is running some type of gambling on the side, how could you possibly know? How could you know?
I don't know.
I mean, do you hold Harbaugh responsible for that?
Well, I think he is a micromanager, right? And I think he knew about the sign stealing.
The Big Ten has not found evidence of that, but I would agree with you that it would be hard to believe that Harbaugh wasn't somewhat aware of what Connor Stallions was doing and the type of information he was providing.
Yeah. So the rest of it, I don't know.
Well, there are NFL teams that will want him. I can guarantee you that.
For sure.
Because he's got a proven track record of success now in college and with the NFL. You know what type of offense you're going to have. You know what type of team you're going to have. I think the Raiders and Bears will be the two teams with the most interest in him right out of the gate. Mark Davis wants him. He talked to him and tried to hire him before back in 2014, and it just didn't come together. He decided to take the job at Michigan, but I was in the Bay Area at the time, and we were waiting word because we knew that Michigan had interest. They wanted Harbaugh, and we knew that Mark Davis was talking to Harbaugh, so it was going to come down to one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're Mark Davis and you're looking for a surefire way to get your program on track, Jim Harbaugh would be a pretty good option.
Oh, no question about it, Chad. He's a winner.
Yeah. The interesting part is Commissioner Warren, who used to be with the Big Ten, he's now in the Chicago Bears front office. The talk there is that Chicago would make a lot of sense for Harbaugh too, but a lot of people are wondering if Warren and Harbaugh would be able to coexist because I know this is a surprise to most, but Harbaugh and Warren have had some run-ins in the past during his time as Big Ten commissioner.
Yeah, let's restate that again too. Jim Harbaugh is not a guy who makes a lot of friends through his daily routine, right?
No. And so when he interviews, You know how this goes. You're not interviewing him. He's interviewing you because he's got options. He's got power because he has options, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be willing to accept his demands or he's not going to coach for you.
Yeah.
And those demands are not just money. He wants big time pay and he wants control. He doesn't want, because he does, here's what it comes down to. He doesn't respect some of the authority figures because he doesn't think they know as much about football. It's like, dude, just get out of my way and let me do my job. And if you get in my way and try to mingle, I'm not going to be okay with that.
There's a lot of coaches like that.
Yeah. But there aren't a lot of coaches who can do that and have a track record of success. There's not many, but Harbaugh can do that and say, look, do you want me or not? Here are my demands. Here's what I want. And this is the only way it's going to be. And if not, that's fine. I'll go coach elsewhere. It would be great to be in that type of position, to have that type of power, wouldn't it?
Oh, man.
Just walk in and say, here are my demands.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
Yeah. Yeah. I need this, this, and this. If I don't get it, I'm out of here.
Yeah. That's amazing. So we'll see how things shake out. I also wonder, too, if the NFL, if they would be slow to bring Harbaugh in if when he leaves, if things really get messy there at Michigan.
Well, if there's a gambling thing, that's a whole different thing than sign stealing.
Yeah, that would have to be something where Harbaugh is free and clear of any wrongdoing there.
Especially if he's going to go to Las Vegas to coach. That might not work real well with the NFL.
Yeah, this is wild. Do you think this is going to have any impact on the players for Michigan, or is it still it's going to galvanize them? They'll continue to play well.
Oh, I think they're feeling picked on. They got a chip on their shoulder. It will serve them well.
The other thing I would add, I don't need assistant coaches crying on the field after the game, acting like what they're able to accomplish without Harbaugh on the sideline during the game was to have a great feat. He gets to be there at practice all week.
Well, nobody died. I mean, this guy, the emotional level he was at was ridiculous. Come on. Do you ever want to get a head coaching job yourself? Be a good idea not to throw out F-bombs on television if you want to be seriously considered for another coaching job.
Now, in his defense, Jenny Taft did say he texted her afterwards and said, my bad.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Never mind.
Of course, in the moment, she must have been thinking, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is big time.
Well, and he cried, which is every reporter's dream to get somebody crying on TV.
Is what you told me true about posting up when you did the show on NBC?
Yeah.
If you got someone to cry, you got little cash bonuses.
An unnamed producer said, if I got somebody to cry on the show, he'd give me $1 for every time it happened.
Who was the most memorable guest you had that you got to cry?
I got Roddy Piper to cry. I wouldn't say I got him to cry. He was ready to cry, I think, when I started asking him about his past with the PEDs, the drug use, potential suicide thoughts, all those things. He was pretty emotional.
All right, we're going to come back. We want to talk about Krista Thompson, who admitted to falsifying reports on the sideline for NFL games.
It doesn't seem as serious in light of all the stuff going on at Michigan, but still.
I'm sure she had her reasons.
Yeah, I'm sure.
All right, it's time for goodies. We've got a pair of tickets to give away for Lainey Wilson, who's going to be at the RVN Style Resorts Amphitheater on September 28th. The rest of you can purchase tickets on Friday morning, November 17th, starting at 10 o'clock on Ticketmaster.com. But we have a pair of tickets to give away right now, so let's do that. We'll take caller 503-248-0620. Caller 503-248-0620. Fire away with your phone calls right now, and caller 5 will get a pair of tickets to see Lainey Wilson in concert September 28th at the RVN Style Resorts Amphitheater, September 28th. 503-248-0620. Fire away with your phone calls right now. Caller 5 will get a pair of tickets for Lainey Wilson, courtesy of 620 Rip City Radio and the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad.
Phone lines are just lit.
All right, Carissa Thompson, who many of you know, longtime sports broadcaster, sideline reporter. She's doing Thursday Night Football on Prime now as the host of the pre- and the post-game show. She was on Awful Announcing, and I've noticed recently that Awful Announcing's been doing a good job of some of their podcasts, their video podcasts. They've talked with Michelle Beadle. They've done some stuff with Dan Patrick, this time with Carissa Thompson, and she had this to say in the most recent episode. Take a listen.
And I've said this before, so I haven't been fired for saying it, but I'll say it again. I would make up the report sometimes because, A, the coach wouldn't come out at halftime, or it was too late, and I was like, I didn't want to screw up the report, so I was like, I'm just going to make this up because, first of all, no coach is going to get mad if I say, hey, we need to stop hurting ourselves. We need to be better on third down. We need to stop turning the ball
Pressure
over.
the quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. and do a better job of getting off the field. Like, they're not going to correct me on that.
Right.
So I'm like, it's fine. I'll just make up the report.
It would be very funny if you were like, yeah, so I just spoke with Arthur Smith at halftime, and he said Bijan Robinson blew smoke in his face. And that's why he's not getting the ball.
All right, there you go. Awful Announcing. Carissa Thompson admitting to falsifying some of her sideline reports during games when she couldn't get the access needed to make it happen.
Wow. That's not going to make her very popular among her counterparts.
No, and we'll get to that in just a moment. A lot of people are coming out to speak and share their thoughts. They're disgusted by it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I am a little bit too, Chad. It's just not the right thing to do. And you have to have some, I know it's the entertainment business. You got to have some standards, though, for yourself, your integrity and your honesty.
Well, I think a sideline reporter is different than a radio talk show host. I am not a journalist. I never have been. I never will be. My job is to entertain and provide fun for people to listen to for 3 hours. So I'm not held to the same type of standard as a writer or a reporter or a journalist. I think a sideline reporter, there's definitely integrity that comes into that job. Number one, you've got to earn the trust of the coaches or the people that you speak with. You need to report information during the course of the game that's accurate based on what you're obtaining from the sidelines. And to just falsify a report or to give generalities when you weren't given the information, that's not going to go well for people who are journalists, who are reporters, who are trying to do it the right way.
Yeah. Many of whom worked really hard to get those jobs by having integrity and honesty and truthfulness in the way they went about their business.
And the NFL is big business. Big business. I don't think the NFL is going to enjoy hearing about someone falsifying sideline or halftime reports.
That's a great point. I agree.
What's your reaction to it? Why do you think she said that?
I can't figure that out. Why would you incriminate yourself? Why would you out yourself in a situation like this? Apparently just for a laugh or just, I don't know, maybe because you think you're bulletproof and you can go ahead and admit this and you're not going to get fired. I guess, but there's no point in saying that. I mean, I guess being honest about it is one thing, but wow, she's incriminated herself journalistically.
Yeah. My guess is she'll never be a sideline reporter ever again after that.
I think you might be right.
Wow. All right. The reaction from some of her counterparts, you found a good one over there. Susie Kolber?
No, Andrea Kramer.
Longtime, well-respected sideline reporter and has been on TV and covering sports for years.
Well, so respected that she's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
How many women are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
According to her, 3.
Wow.
Let me read. This is what she posted on X today. As one of only 3 women in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I'm sickened by the insulting mockery being made of sideline reporting, a challenging role primarily manned by women, most of whom understand and respect the values of journalism and are integral, trusted members of a broadcast team.
Wow.
She's ticked.
She's ticked off.
Yeah. And I don't blame her because it does cast doubt on everyone doing it. It's a job that doesn't get a lot of respect anyway because so often they don't have anything real to report. You know how coaches are, especially during a game. It's, and I've always thought it's dumb to interview coaches or managers during a game. I think that should be left for after the game.
Yeah.
But they do it. It's part of the requirement of coaching.
Tracy Wolfson chimed in on X and said, "This is absolutely not okay, not the norm, and upsetting on so many levels. I take my job very seriously. I hold myself accountable for all I say, build trust with coaches, and never make something up. I know my fellow reporters do the same." And it continues, Godfather. There are others who have chimed in on this. Andrew Marchand says, Krista Thompson messed up on many levels. 1, making up reports, pretty self-evident as to why. 2, I get it. PMT is a relaxed environment, but revealing was an odd choice. And number 3, all sideline reporters who do the job correctly look bad as a result. Chris Kirshner chimed in and said, a good portion of the public doesn't trust the media as is. I cannot believe she would proudly admit this. This causes significant harm to people who actually take the job seriously. It is entirely unethical and worthy of never working in the field again. And then Molly McGrath, who does a heck of a job, says, young reporters, this is not normal or ethical. Coaches and players trust us with sensitive information, and if they know that you're not being honest and you don't take your role seriously, you've lost all trust and credibility. Really what this comes down to, Godfather, based on what I know about the business, your job is to develop the relationships, meaning you've got to go out of your way to create a connection with all the coaches that you deal with. And even though they may not give you anything on a live interview, they'll give you stuff in confidence.
Off the record.
Off the record that you can use to tailor your reports without giving up the specifics that coach said. That's what it's all about.
Nailed it, Chad. That's exactly what it's about.
How many times has someone given you sensitive information that you could not report word for word, but you knew that I could take that information and create and craft a message to accurately report without giving up the details they didn't want me to give up?
Well, Chad, I'd say it's been at least like 4 or 5 hours since somebody's done that for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you've been in the business long enough, you kind of do business that way. That's the way you learn how to put things in perspective and how to shape your opinions because you know information that others don't know. And you can't say where you got it. Every time I put something out there on X, it's like, oh, yeah, what's your source? Well, if I gave up my source, I wouldn't have the information.
Yeah.
But this is the truth. You know?
Yes.
And I don't report stuff that people just hand me unless I investigate it and get it from another source. But that's kind of the way the business works. And if you're going to be in the business, you ought to obey the rules a little bit. And I feel bad for other sideline reporters. It shouldn't. But the other thing, Chad, if a coach doesn't show up and you're supposed to talk to him, just tell the producer, look, I don't have anything. He didn't show. Then they don't go to you. Everything's cool. It's not like you have to have it. You don't. You don't. And any producer who says make something up, they're in the wrong business.
The weird part here is Krista Thompson, and I've seen her on many different sets, different networks. She's really engaging and does a heck of a job.
She is. Great personality.
She
funny.
does a podcast that she's done with Aaron Andrews. I mean, she's engaging. She's really good at what she does. That's why I'm surprised that she would admit to this type of activity with her sideline reporting.
She's smarter than that.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
I don't think she's a dum-dum. She's crazy for admitting to this.
Yes.
Maybe she thought, by being honest, maybe she was accomplishing something there, but this is going to become a much bigger firestorm than she could ever possibly imagine.
Well, in today's world where you cancel people over little things, I don't know if this gets her canceled because she's talented. She's obviously attractive. She brings people to the network, to the broadcasts, but this is not the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, she is spectacular. She's a beautiful human being, incredibly beautiful. And the problem is, you know how a lot of guys or a lot of people will look at sideline reporters or
Yeah.
women in that spot, right?
Right.
The stereotype is, well, they're just on TV because they're beautiful. So they're disrespected right out of the gate.
They're fighting it every step of the way, Chad.
Yes, and this is the problem. Carissa Thompson fits it to a T. She's spectacular. She's on TV. She admits to this, and now it further pushes the narrative that, yeah, sideline reporters are just beautiful, but they don't really know what they're doing or have any care for the job. They're just there because they're a pretty face. That's why these other women are so ticked off. It's like, I've had to work hard to get to where I'm at and do the job the right way, and now you come out and admit this and make us all look like idiots. That's where the frustration comes from.
For sure. It's a shame, really. And I don't know what would, I keep saying this, what would ever lead somebody to admitting that? Are you just trying to show how smart and funny you are? Or what? And like I say, maybe she's bulletproof. Maybe she can say that and nothing whatsoever is going to happen to her. But it almost sounds like she feels that way.
Yeah. Or you get, sometimes you get into a relaxed environment like a podcast where you're just having a conversation
Right.
and you're just talking. You're not thinking in terms of this becoming viral.
Yeah, well, she said it before. I don't know where because I have not heard it before. And people are acting as if it's the first time they've heard it. So,
and I know how this works. The people at Awful Announcing, when they heard that, they're like, oh, that is the hook right there.
yeah.
We can push it out. Carissa Thompson used to fake sideline reports, and then boom, it becomes a viral story.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah. I would still want her hosting my television product, though.
You just like to get to know her better.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Like, I will probably get killed for this, but
I was going to say, be careful.
I know. I'm not going to say it, but I'll just say this. Beautiful people tend to have greater advantages in the world. It's been like that.
Yeah.
Ever since I've been alive, it's been like that forever.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful people get away with more.
Males and females.
Male and female. If you're spectacular, if you're handsome, if you're beautiful, you're just going to have access to things that other people don't.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone would agree with that, right?
Yeah, it's easier to get hired, easier to succeed, easier to get along, all those things.
Everything. Because if you're beautiful, people will probably go out of their way to take care of you.
And we know about this because we're both beautiful.
Yeah.
Or wait a minute, we know about it because we're not beautiful.
That's right. So that's the way of the world. The people go out of their way to take care of beautiful people.
Yeah.
And that's how you can say something like that in your Carissa Thompson and still have access to big-time opportunities because she's spectacular. And it's frustrating to me because she's very good. She's engaging. She does a good job.
Yeah.
It reminds me, it's like I've had conversations when I was younger with my dad. He's like, you don't have to admit to everything, right?
Right.
You can still be an honest person, but some things you just keep to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might feel it's in the past. Just you don't need to say it because you're not going to. What are you accomplishing by coming out now and saying this?
Mm-hmm.
Just keep that to yourself.
Well, and the other thing about that you're told in some sorts of, I think, at lectures on integrity, if your truth causes other people harm, you're better off keeping that truth to yourself. And in this case, her truth is causing other people in that position a lot of harm. Just keep quiet about it.
Yeah,
it's your secret.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I'm sure the other sideline reporters had other things they would like to do today aside from going on to comment on the remarks of Carissa Thompson, right? You're surprised that she said it.
Very. Yeah. I can't believe it. Why would you say that? I mean, we've all had situations that we're not necessarily proud of, but you don't have to just spill your guts in a viral video.
Yeah. Just leave it alone. No need to come out on that. Let's take a listen to a little bit of this, Godfather. This is, let's see here, Maddie Haddock, who is a sideline reporter for Green Wave Football, Tulane. And she came out and she wanted to put together a video. She was frustrated, so take a listen to this.
why am I doing this right now? A memoir. My final thoughts on this sideline reporting situation that has dominated the news cycle for today, that I don't feel like a tweet is just accurately summing up my frustrations behind it. I think that there's definitely a longer conversation to be had about why sideline reporters aren't able to access these types of things. That's something that, again, just should be expected and acknowledged and just respected as a professional to a professional to answer their questions. But I'm also lacking all of this context. It just has shined such an ugly light on a job that every time I explain what I do to people, I have to give this caveat that, oh, I'm more than a normal sideline reporter, because unfortunately the perception is what it is. And these types of things do not make it any easier for the people that bust their asses on the sideline in these weather conditions, braving heat, braving snow, braving really bad rainstorms. It really doesn't matter. If the team takes the field, so do I. And that is an experience that I never take for granted, and one that I, again, try to use every single second of to my advantage. And I think this also just speaks to promoting and following along with your local coverage as well, because national networks just aren't going to have the time to build these relationships and have these types of storylines. All of that to say, I go to practice with the broadcast crew. We're there every single day. We were there every day during the 2 and 10 year. And that makes a difference when you're assimilating yourself in a game setting. I've also been so aware, I guess, and careful about not adding additional stresses by asking just the one question I asked Willie Fritz at halftime: Coach Fritz, your thoughts on the first half? Where, I've studied, I guess, for 2 years where he kind of is on the sideline, how much time is left, where I need to kind of be watching coach instead of the game, and what kind of his process is for getting off the field. How can I put myself into that without making his job have any extra steps? So
there you go.
Yeah. See, here's one frustration I have with sideline reporters. That's the question they always ask: what are your reactions to the first half? Yeah. Do you ever hear one of them say, Coach, why did you choose to go for it on 4th and 7 rather than kick a field goal?
Yeah.
That's the pertinent question that everybody out there wants to know. It's never asked.
Yeah. So you can tell Maddie's someone that takes her job seriously, learning about the coach, understanding what to ask, what not to ask, and how to make sure you do it in a timely manner so that, you don't step on anyone's toes.
Yeah.
There you go.
In journalism, you have to step on people's toes once in a while.
Yeah. But if you work for a team and you're trying to get information from the coach,
exactly,
you got to handle that a certain way.
That's a lot different. And I respect that too. People have their jobs. I know who signs their paychecks. We all know. So you have to take that into consideration.
I forgive Carissa for her missteps.
I knew you would. You're just tuning in tonight to make sure she's still there, right?
Yep. Yeah. She shouldn't have done that, but she'll be better moving forward.
You'll cut her a little slack, huh?
I think I'll find it in my heart to cut a little slack for Carissa.
I know she'll appreciate that.
I won't be the only one either, by the way.
I know.
It's the way of the world, Godfather.
Yeah.
All right, we'll come back with some high fives. I don't think Carissa Thompson's going to get one tonight.
No.
All right, Godfather, I'll let you start this one out. Who's going to get your high five tonight?
You know, Chad, I'm going to give it to U.S. Integrity, that firm that's investigating all this gambling action. It's a fascinating company to me. I'll bet first of all, those guys are making a lot of money because of how much gambling is going on. I'd love to know how that thing works, all the algorithms they use to track the gambling, where the money's coming from, where it's going, all that stuff. I just find it a very interesting company, and they're apparently doing pretty good work.
Well, what I'll do is I'll reach out and see if we can get someone on to discuss their operation.
That would be really fun.
Oh, by the way, I tuned into Thursday Night Football on Prime.
Yeah?
Yeah, Krista Thompson was still in her position, doing her job.
Uh-huh.
Didn't get a chance to listen to much because we had to go back on radio, but it
I don't
appeared like
think
the operation was just fine.
I don't think you tuned in to listen.
I did.
No, I think you tuned in to look.
Bengals trail the Ravens right now 7-3 with 4:54 to go in the first quarter. That's one of those games where I know when you play the Ravens and the Bengals, you're going to wake up tomorrow morning feeling like you played a game like that. Those are two physical football teams.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Playing on short rest, too.
Yes. Ugh. Tough teams. Baltimore's a tough football team. I'm going to hand mine out to our producer, Mike Oakes.
Oh, good idea.
Ever since he took over and started working on the show, smooth, runs a tight board, is on top of everything, and he picked up the YouTube stuff in no time. The guy is a genius, a radio genius, Mike Oakes.
I'll tell you how good he is. I don't think you've had to yell at him once. That's pretty good because you're yelling at Shacker all the time.
That's because Mike Oakes, unlike Shacker, respects authority.
Yeah, and rules.
And he's by the book.
Yeah.
He's Captain Spock.
That's kind of a refreshing approach here.
Yeah, I agree. He's like Captain Spock. He follows the rules. Whatever's in the handbook, he does it. And so it's nice. All I can tell you is that, and you know how it is in that position, when you have someone that you don't even have to think about or worry about, that means they're doing the job.
Yeah, for sure.
So he's money. All right. I can't wait for this weekend. Tomorrow's going to be fun. We'll have Alex Brink on tomorrow, and then we'll get set for another big football weekend. And I'm torn because there's a part of me that wants to go to Corvallis for the Washington game. And there's another part of me that wants to continue what I've done the last couple of Saturdays, which is do nothing but watch football from 9 a.m. in the morning with coffee all the way up until the late evening with all the games that are coming on.
Yeah, and you can't do that if you're going to a game in person.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
The television has spoiled us when it comes to football viewing.
Yeah. Yeah. And so many games on it. For a guy who grew up, there was like one game a week on TV. And now every team you want to see is on TV. Oh, and by the way, the Lakers are in town tomorrow night, too.
And the Lakers are in town tomorrow night, too.
Yeah.
I wonder if LeBron will play this one or sit this one out like last Sunday.
I think he'll be playing. You know, there's a lot of LeBron haters out there now on X, and it's really fun to read some of their stuff. They're accusing him now of chasing stats. He's staying in these games like the other night. It was last night's game, I think. He was still on the floor. He was the only starter still on the floor, running around, tracking rebounds down.
He got his triple-double.
He's out there chasing those stats.
Come on, Godfather. A man that's opening up a museum for himself would not chase stats. You should know this.
That's why he's opening up the museum. He'll probably have a big display of all his triple-doubles.
It's ridiculous. They lost again to the Kings last night.
Yeah.
All right, so 9 a.m. Fox, Michigan, Maryland. 9 a.m. ABC, Louisville, Miami.
Yeah.
9 a.m. ESPN, Oklahoma, and BYU. As we continue on throughout the morning, we can jump into later action at 11:30 on Pac-12 Network, Utah and Arizona. That's an underrated good football game in the conference.
Game. Yeah.
I agree. That's one I'm definitely going to want to watch. 12:30 on CBS, Georgia is at Tennessee, both ranked in the top 25. Georgia 1 and Tennessee 18 right now. A good game in the ACC at 12:30 on ESPN, North Carolina at Clemson. 12:30 on ABC, UCLA at USC. Okay, that's enough. 1 o'clock, we have Oregon and Arizona State. I will be staying at home. There's too many good games on.
Yeah.
Too many. What am I supposed to do with myself?
Who's carrying the Oregon-Arizona State game?
Fox.
Oh, good.
Fox.
Yeah. I don't like, no offense to anybody, I don't like going to the Pac-12 network unless I have to.
Well, I don't blame you on that. Well, this is
Yeah.
the last season. We only have to deal with a couple of more weeks of Pac-12 football.
Yeah.
All right. No late games of any note. 5 o'clock, Texas at Iowa State. That's a big game. So, yeah, so that's great. I'll be flipping back and forth between Washington, Oregon State, and Texas, Iowa State. Obviously, if you're a Duck fan, you want Texas to go down. That'd be very helpful.
Yes, it would.
Washington, Oregon State is going to be a good one, Godfather. It's going to be a good one.
I think it is. Yeah.
The chainsaw. What is the over-under on how many times the chainsaw gets played?
I'm not sure. But I bet the Huskies are ready for it.
I can't believe that you're turning your back on the Beavs this late in the season.
I'm not turning my back on
You're
them.
turning your back on them.
No, I'm not. You see, here's the funny thing. How many Duck fans I know who think they're in competition with Washington for a playoff berth? And the fact is, you're not. You're not in competition with the Huskies. You're in competition with Alabama, Texas, Florida State, those teams, because you want Washington to be undefeated when you play them, if indeed you do.
You want the best resume possible.
Yeah.
But you are turning your back on the Beavs, getting
Why?
back to that for just a moment, because you picked them to win the conference,
Yeah.
and they've got a chance to do that, but they have to beat Washington to put themselves in a position to do that.
Well, it's not, I didn't say I'm rooting for them. I said I'm not picking them to win.
Okay. All right.
And I can't believe that I would get points. Boy, at the start of that sound effect, you scared me a little.
I love that sound effect. I wanted so badly when I was younger, living up in Colorado, for my dad to let me use the chainsaw.
Oh, God.
I wanted to so bad. He never let me do it. I wasn't old enough.
Thank God he
I
never
wanted to
let
make
me.
firewood.
Oh, man, those things are so dangerous.
I know, but they're fun, man. Especially when they start trying to get into the wood. Can't beat that. That's a real man activity right there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
He let me start it, but I could not run it because he was afraid it would kick back into my face and cut my dome in half. That's what he told me.
You know, even experienced users of chainsaws wear those, you know, they have a bib, not a bib, but a full covering in front.
Yeah.
Made out of, I don't know what, but it keeps the chainsaw from biting into you.
Yeah, you don't want that.
It's like, what do they call that? The body armor. What is that stuff called?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I should have gotten. I should have bought some miniature body armor and said, Dad, I'm all geared up. Let me run that
ready to
thing.
go. Can you imagine letting a little kid run a chainsaw?
I know. Yeah. He let me do things. He let me and my brother do things that I know Mom would not have been approving of at the time. But he would let us know, like, yeah, this is between us, right?
Yeah,
Like, there
right.
are things where it's like, if you want to continue to have a chance to do some of these things, it's just, you know, what happens on the mountain stays on the mountain.
See, kids growing up in that environment, two things. Number one, I bet you drove before you were even 15 years old.
100%, yes.
Yeah, and I bet you had a BB gun.
Oh, yeah.
Those two things are common with kids growing up in the woods or on a farm. Or
Yes, and I told you about my story with the BB gun. Nana made me cry because she asked me why I shot her bird feeder. I didn't have a good answer, and she looked at me and had a sad face, and she goes, "I'm disappointed in you."
Oh,
And I
boy.
broke down, like
Yeah.
in tears,
Yeah, no,
because I don't want
that's-
Nana to be disappointed in me.
No.
And by the way, your young little grandson is going to have whatever he wants from Nana is going to come his way.
Well, I know he's going to have a golf club in one hand and a baseball bat in the other.
All right. That's going to do it for us today. Big thanks to Justin Myers for joining the show. Big thanks to Mike Oakes for engineering the program. And to all of you for listening on 620 and joining us on the YouTube chat. Justin Myers tomorrow morning at 6. I'll join his show at 8:20. And then Dwight and I are back at 3 tomorrow. We'll have Alex Brink on. And then game day at 4:30 as I get you ready for the Lakers and Blazers. Have a good night, Godfather.
You too, Chad. Enjoy the game.